Oh, this is going to be a good one. Good evening, everybody. I know you've been champing at the bit. I've been desperate to come on, so hopefully the mic is working first and foremost. And let's hope we're going to have a good one here because I've got a tasty panel and I think a tasty episode to discuss. My God, talk about first impressions and kicking back with emotion. Oh, there's a lot I could say tonight. And boy, are we champing at the bit. So, make this digest work. I'm going to bring everybody on in a minute, but remember, we've got the what the F item at the beginning. What the hell did we just see? The Broke Hack Bingo scorecard, Night Terrors, the RTD Rescue Roadmap. How's that going? I think this should be a tasty show. So hopefully, wherever you are in the world, you've got your duvet, you've got your popcorn, you've got your cup of tea, and you're ready to partake. Because by God, I think this is going to be a good one. So let's get everybody on. So I'll go across the pond, and our good friend, there he is, Christian, Divine and Dragon.
Howdy.
I'm dying to talk about this one.
Oh, yes. They've got a lot to say.
We do. Sticking in America, we've got Sonny Waffles.
Howdy, Captain Sonny Waffles here to do my community service for the week, hanging out with the old folks home. And boy, we got a big episode. That's all I can say about it for right now.
Let's just call it a barbershop. A barbershop of Whovians. And sticking in North America, we haven't had him on for a while. Let's have a look. Let's see if I can get him. We've got Brian. Hello.
Hello.
There'll be a lot to say. And of course, I always have to, you see, I try and bring people out of their shells. So, you know, we've got some confident panelists here. And then I go to the Antipodes and he's dead shy. He's very quiet. His name's all wrong, Boomer Doug. I mean, he can't boom or anything. Let's see if we can get him on.
Howdy. Here I am. I've just woken
Boomer!
up. Hey. Lovely to be here, Brendan. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, well, I think it's if only the stuff we were talking about was good fun. But anyway, so the story in the engine, and of course, good to see you all in the thread. And I will try and keep up with you all. But yes, oh, I'm dying to get into this. So, you know, the first thing we always start with, because I like to see where we're champing at the bit, is our what the F item. So here we go.
A tear? Sarah Jane?
Is this death? It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.
What have I just seen? I don't believe it. I cannot believe my eyes.
Yes, well, Divine and Dragon, over to you.
This was not a Doctor Who episode. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's wearing the skin suit. It's pretending. But this is not Doctor Who. This is a fantasy anthology episode. And it was not as well executed as it could have been, given what it was trying to accomplish. I was mortified. I think that's clear.
Yeah, and you can imagine, everybody, I have got plenty prepared to feed this through. So yeah, I'm just giving everybody a freebie at the moment. So Sonny, anything that, remember, by the way, if anyone new to us, what the F, it could be Oh, that's awesome. Oh, look at that. The 15th Doctor when he's aged. Isn't that tragic? Oh, isn't that sad? It's normally awesome or tragic. It's kind of at one end or the other. So, Sonny, over to you.
Yeah, I got a what the F moment. So it was I call it a real jump scare when the fugitive doctor showed up, because he was in the middle of a conversation and then she showed up and I genuinely got scared. I was like, whoa, what the heck? Oh, where'd she come from? And the real what the F for me was when they retcon that every time the doctor turns black, he runs to Nigeria. So apparently the fugitive doctor also ran to Nigeria. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy, man. But okay, that was like the only, and this is me saying good things about the episode, by the way, because then the two women arguing was kind of accurate. I was like, that's really black, I guess. But outside of that, yeah, I was like, that was my biggest what the F.
Well, if that's his biggest what the F, it's going to be a big show because I've got so many items. Brian, awesome what the F, tragic what the F. Where are you standing on this?
Actually, I'm with Christian. The whole episode. It was like, for me, it was watching them, kind of like watching Ghostlight for the first time back when I was a kid. I didn't understand it. I had to watch Ghostlight over and over and over again, and quite frankly, I still don't completely grasp it. And I watched this thing from start to finish, shaking my head, saying, "What is going on? I don't understand what's going on at all." And I think, yeah, Christian got it right. It's not Doctor Who at all. It's just a fantasy show, and it happens to have a blue phone booth. And that's it. It was a confusing mess is what it was.
And going to Doug. Doug, you've seen every Doctor Who from the beginning. So where does this stand?
Well, the big thing for me, I've just found out that the TARDIS does the Doctor's hair. How that works, I don't know. But they happen to mention that. So he goes to hang around a barber shop, but the TARDIS does his hair. So I think, yeah, I've watched it since the beginning. I think this would have to be an episode. That's all I can say. It's an episode.
Yeah. I tell you what, the TARDIS is burnt and everything. I wouldn't trust my hair with the TARDIS. You'd end up with some sort of dodgy kind of burnt hair too.
I wouldn't. No.
Not the latest model.
Not the latest model. No. Well, obviously you knew I've prepared, and. My God. Now, this Baru has given us one for free here. I don't know if anyone saw his what the F today. This is mumbo jumbo. Hurt people. The difference between good and evil is what we do with that pain. Wow. It's so deep, Doctor Who nowadays. It's really good writing. I can see why Inaya Ellams was picked. Do you know what? His master, his mentor must be RTD, because how did the Empire of Death finish? Death to death brings life. So hurt people. Oh wow! I mean, this is it's off the scale list.
It was so pretentious too, because she goes, "Oh, I taught a god something." Oh my gosh!
Perfect word for it.
It's obviously in my sci-fi scorecard with the Brokack bingo. You've got the companion as per usual. She didn't completely solve the episode, but she had a hand in it, didn't she? Because Abina wouldn't have done anything if she hadn't had a little word. Sisters having a talk.
Right.
Yeah, great. Mind you, as Lee Smith is saying here, that the hair growing like Play-Doh. Did anyone have that Play-Doh kit when you?
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
It was weird.
It was sad, in my opinion. Like, because it doesn't even relate to the story, anything related to hair or the stories, to be honest. But.
Well, you see, we will get to the bit, but
yeah.
I think you all know it. You know, when the barber was saying why he did all these things, and his hair kept getting longer, and I thought it's getting quite distracting. You know, it's like, oh my God, dear me. So, I mean, he's worried sick about what's going to happen as the night goes on. Will he change? I mean, there he is, and there's our TARDIS crew for this next year. There they are. All good. It's all good. I go to India. I go to Nigeria because Britain's a nasty place. I mean, I don't know. What do you do? So, that was Disparu saying mumbo jumbo, but gosh, I've got plenty. Now, on this one, folks, just in case you didn't know, me and Bill Potts are always quiet about our sexuality. And
Yeah, I noticed.
and I just thought, right, okay, I'm not having this anymore. I am not. He's a gay doctor. I don't want a gay doctor, but they've made him gay. We've all seen Rogue. And he says we can boost the Vindicator if we go to Lagos, Nigeria. It has the largest communication technology market in Africa. Well, you could go to America as well. And it is near Almost Palace. Oh, I don't go there for cuts. It's hard to explain. And of course, we get the explanation a bit later. My body changes a lot. It's the first time I've had this black body. In some parts of the earth, I'm now treated differently. But here in Africa, in that barber's shop, I'm accepted. I'm able to forget. We laugh. We tell stories. And before he finishes his sentence, Belinda says, "You're treated like one of one of theirs." And I'm thinking, you are in Nigeria. Can I really just say, before we do Disney hocus pocus, I need to state facts? Because the story here, so the gay doctor, because he's black and obviously maybe doesn't feel at home at UNIT, he goes to this barber shop where they're very safe. Crap. Absolute crap. Here is the truth. They, on the left, is the public opinion on same-sex marriage in Nigeria only 2 years ago. And 92% strongly opposed same-sex marriage in Nigeria. You then go to the law in Nigeria, where he says he feels safe. They prohibit the registration of gay clubs and societies and meetings. They prohibit the public show of same-sex amorous relationships. They have made a person who enters into a same-sex marriage contract liable for 14 years imprisonment. They've made a person who registers or operates or participates in gay societies liable for 10 years jail. And it will go on. And in the north of Nigeria, they do have Sharia law, and you would be stoned. Now, this is a man who was born in Rwanda and, of course, doesn't feel safe and then goes on about it. And can I just show everybody where Rwanda is? You can see the red dot. That's where Ncuti was born. He went to Scotland to feel safe. His family thought he'd be safe. Nigeria's on the left there, you will see. Well, if he felt safe, why the hell didn't they go there? I'm furious about this. And it is a what the F, because the whole story is saying, I'm a black doctor and there's parts of the world I don't feel safe in. So I go to the country where being black, I feel safe, but being gay, I would be stoned or I would be imprisoned. Get over yourself. Rubbish writing, unreal. I'm sorry, I'm not doing lies anymore. I'm not doing it.
And not only that, but when he said that this is my first time in a black body, did I get, yeah, my body changes a lot. It's the first time I've had this black body. And I thought, like, don't you remember what there? You got the fugitive doctor. You've got yourself as a little girl. They've said it over and over again that he's been black numerous times, and then all of a sudden he says, "This is the first time I've had this." Unless he meant specifically this marvelous, this hey babe, fancy black body. But I just thought you just broke canon in the first 10 minutes of your episode.
Yeah,
I just thought it was an odd remark.
And Squinty Mint here is saying, but Brendan, Ncuti didn't write the script. I agree, but have you seen Unleashed? Because in Unleashed, Ncuti said at the very beginning, he wanted a story in Nigeria. He wanted to have the doctor go to Nigeria. And he's been talking to the writer all the way from the beginning. He was cast 3 years ago this week. So Squinty Mint, you are factually correct, but Ncuti's fingerprints will be all over this, and they are selling us a dud. I don't mind stories. They tell stories about Britain that I don't like, and that gets credence at the moment. But suddenly, the gay doctor wouldn't be going in the bushes in Nigeria, I'll have you say. So it's not a safe space. It's a lot of baloney, absolute baloney. And I just wanted to call that out. That's my what the F. Not having it at all. Absolute crap. Do you know what? This country, the one he doesn't feel safe in, does have same-sex marriage, does have same-sex adoption, does have all that. So what the hell? I just find every week there's a reason to bait us. And my dad, who has defended Doctor Who when it was Jodie Whittaker, my dad, who has said, "Oh, Brendan, it's all right," he's been really reasonable and defending RTD's Doctor Who. And he texted me tonight and he said, "What have I just seen? What have I just seen?" He said, "Are we being baited deliberately?" And he talked about how it was so diverse. He said, "I really don't know what they're trying to do." And yeah,
I think they're trying to propagandize. Like it's well established in Black history, Black culture that we're anti-gay. I guess whatever you want to say, right? It's in the religion that there's no homosexuality, but he would love it if Africa was gay, right? And all those laws were repealed. So what they do is they create this propaganda and they try to make Black actors and Black people gay, and they go like, "Look, this is the norm. This is how it should be over there." But it's not true. And it's not true because he ran from Africa. And this episode did a great job of reaffirming my belief that I never want to go to Africa. I don't think it's a fun place to go, and I wouldn't want to go. But Ncuti implicit in the propaganda. That's why he praised the episode and he thinks it's good.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but you saw the map. If his family thought they would be safe to go to Britain.
Of course.
Not Nigeria.
Because it was. That's the truth. That's the truth. His actions prove the truth, not what he says, because he's a liar, apparently.
And this is it. And so suddenly he's had a decent upbringing in Britain, and then he feels as though they'll join in on the crusade about other stuff, and the truth disappears. Unbelievable. Not having it. So there you go. That was my starter for 10, lads. But, if anybody in the thread, you can see the facts are there.
Can I just say, Brendan, well said, because I was thinking those exact same things, but you put it so much better than I would have, so thank you.
I trained myself to ignore it. That's why I didn't even think about this connection, but it's so obvious, too. You're like, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that episode was also the very first all Black / like, if you want to call somebody a minority, but there was not one white person that I could see in that whole episode. That was a first for Doctor Who. It was interesting. It was very interesting to see that.
Might be called brave as well. I don't know. Demorpin, thank you, Brendan. As a bi person born in the country where it's punishable by death, but lucky enough to live in the US, it enraged me. I think we just want truth. That's all. I think the truth. I have to hear the truth about Britain every blooming day, apparently. But other truths, not so. So there's your reminder for 10. But the argument gets worse, lads. To me, on the what the F, you've got this. He said, in some parts of the earth, I'm now treated differently. And then she joined in. And she said, when my nan took me to India whenever she could for the very same reason. Again, Verada Sethu, settled in Britain. I think, am I right? She's on the TV and she's been in Star Wars, one of the franchises and all the rest. Am I getting this right? These two people have done all right in the country that there seem to be. And this is it. When I've taught poetry from other cultures and stuff like that, and there was one that was called half caste. That was the phrase then, right? And in the poem, John Agard, who's from the African subcontinent, he was talking about how the half caste phrase is wrong because it makes you sound half. But he said, actually, I'm double. I'm two cultures. I'm the British culture and the culture I'm from. And fair enough. That's a nice way of putting it.
It really is.
But what I'm finding now, the argument seems to be, so Verada Sethu's Belinda is saying, I kept going back to India to feel safe and at home. So why the hell did I go to Britain? And the Ncuti family or the 15th Doctor family came to Britain, but they only feel safe when they go somewhere else. this becomes a problematic argument for the whole Doctor Who program, because they only feel safe when they seem to be saying they're with their own. But the indigenous people of, say, Britain can't actually have an opinion about how things go, and also have to be told about their past. I find this funny because this whole story was about stories, but it's about which stories are allowed to be told and which ones have to be rewritten. And it seems to be, if you're from a certain, creed or color, your stories can be rewritten and butchered and slagged off, and others have to be preserved and they may be lied about a bit, like the gay one in Nigeria. I just found it really problematic. Now, can I just show lads all this? That was the shot of the opening of the program. That is Lagos today, or recently. Lagos. And it looks like Lagos. It looks like Nigeria. Look at all those people all shopping in the markets and everything. Wow. I was amazed, actually, because I thought, this is a BBC TV program and they've broken their diversity portfolio, because when they want to show normally a crowd anywhere else, they normally show it as very, very diverse. So here is Nigeria as they wanted to show it. There you go. And do you know what? Did you notice when the Doctor got out the TARDIS when he was in Nigeria, he had the biggest grin on his face and he was so happy. And when he landed in 2007 London a few weeks ago, he stuck his nose in the air and as if it stunk and as if he didn't like it. Did you notice that one? Yeah, I did too. Yeah. I don't know if that's racism. I'm not sure. I don't know if he needs unconscious bias training, this Doctor, because he seems to be quite sniffy about the country he's in. So here he is, really, he seems to like everybody in the market. I didn't see this in London. He seemed to be a bit woo. And so there you go, looking really happy with being at home with his own brethren, so to speak. Anyway, I put some of the classic Doctors there and I thought, well, would they have been made to feel welcome? Or is this the issue, that actually that people would have said, no, you're an outsider? And I think that's the very truth, that people in Nigeria, in that market, because we all saw what it looked like, because we are doing the truth, aren't we, today? That's what it looks like, right? We're not telling stories. That I think the first Doctor would stand out and people would say, and he would feel uncomfortable just because...
Yeah, I don't think he would go there in the first place. He had a reputation, didn't he, William Hartnell?
Yeah, but I did say the first Doctor. I said the first Doctor.
Oh, the first Doctor. Oh, that's different.
Yeah. I don't even think the Doctor would be uncomfortable. I think he would just do his own thing, but he would definitely leave. Yeah, go ahead, Didi.
No, I think that it's a case of if it were one of these previous Doctors, they would be what is called a mark. Oh, you look like you're coming from Europe. I bet you have money. So it's just logical. That happens in those settings. And it would be a different scenario. I could picture a pickpocket getting close enough to nab the sonic screwdriver from his vest and not realizing what they've got. I would see that kind of narrative unfold. But this is selective balkanization and marginalization of ultimately British culture and British identity. I've noticed a nasty tendency of this version of Doctor Who to operate on a two-tier system. And guess what tier most of the UK falls under?
And that's what I mean. I think we have to be very careful how we actually promote things, even in our Doctor Who program. And on that thing, let's go to the end just for a second on what the F, right? The villain, the barber, the Doctor dragged, got him out. He was risking everybody not having stories and losing their cohesion.
That's what was happening.
Which would have been the death of everything. And he said, try and start another barber shop. And he talked to him like that. Meanwhile, last week, somebody who spread conspiracies, and that was basically it, was told you're the vilest person on the planet and I can't wait to watch you die alone. I couldn't see a difference. Well, I could see one thing that was different.
I also can only see one thing that was different, and that's that this guy was willing to actually sacrifice the lives of the people in the barbershop. I guess, assuming, like, I think that's what was happening. But to me, the episode, the theme was black people can't be bad. Like that's what that was the lesson that it was trying to teach me. It's like you couldn't say white people bad because there wasn't any white people. So the villain had to do a heel turn, and then it's like, well, black people can't really do anything wrong, and we can be redeemed or something.
Agreed.
And it,
I only
Christine,
just noticed that. I didn't
Yeah.
notice that until you mentioned it.
yeah,
So-
and it this upsets me because I have to say television and advertising and some certain movies are really taking my thought process to places that were never on my register.
Yeah.
And I'm furious about this because talk about breaking the fourth wall all the time. I seem to be counting now. And it's just, but they are, because they've been doing diversity box ticking and clearly in their scripting trying to do certain things that they've actually really thrown up things that actually were settled issues in a why would anyone settle in Britain if it's such a crap place? You know, I have to say, you've got to call these people out sometimes. You really do. And remember, there's a lady who has been on my streams a few times who was a teacher at the school where Ncuti was a little kid. And she said, we are all so disappointed and disgusted at how he talks about Britain as if it's this vile place, when actually they said he had a fantastic childhood. And yet, you know, add that to the script. You know, Anaya Ellams wanted to tell us all about the wonders of Nigeria. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the meantime, don't throw crap at us. There's no need.
It would have been nice if I got to learn anything about Nigeria. I still don't know anything about it. I still don't know anything. Yeah.
Same.
So,
Well, I'm fascinated about this barbershop thing. Obviously, he wrote the Barbershop Chronicles for the National
I was about
Theatre.
to say that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's and RTD asked him, "Can you do a Barbershop Chronicles with Doctor Who?" So basically, that's where all that originated from. But the barbershop in itself is almost like a kind of male preserve. I didn't think they were allowed nowadays. We used to have kind of male only parts in pubs and stuff. You know, it was all very, you know, like that, conservative. That's bad. Now these barbershops sounds like where Nigerian men go to be Nigerian men. And I thought, oh gosh, it's a little bit dodgy on the progressive front, isn't it?
It is. I think I'm of the mind, just like Sonny is saying, I wanted more cultural relevance. Has anyone heard of something called Kwanzaa?
yes.
Okay. And it's a manufactured holiday because there was a sense that the African American population was not represented during the holiday season. So they manufactured something that would kind of fill that bill. And this episode almost feels like it's serving the same purpose for Doctor Who, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Well, over the oversea, very soon in the What the F, I'll show you the 5-minute breakdown. Not the ratings yet; we have to wait for them. But I've got the 5-minute breakdown of what the plot was up to, because I'll compare them to the 5-minute ratings breakdowns hopefully later. Because what you're saying there about it being clunky and basically, and Rachel and me were texting earlier, and of course she'll have done her stream, and it'll be interesting what she says on our Sunday show tomorrow night as well. And the truth is, it was very staged. It was one set, really.
Yes.
And I can't knock that in one way. Base Under Siege is a classic Doctor Who trope, really. You know, you're stuck in one place. Yeah. Classic Ice Warriors, all the rest of it. But so that's not the problem. But it just did feel very still. And therefore,
It felt like I was watching a stage play. Sorry, it felt like I was watching a stage play, which is in essence, I guess, based on the writer. Is kind of why.
Well,
Yeah.
I
No,
would
that's
say
that's a very good description.
yeah, we're looking at a stage play, but remember, this is a bottle episode, basically, so
Yeah.
we're in one space. But what's the difference in the bottle episode on Midnight versus this? Midnight was in one place, kind of static
Yeah.
for the entire story, but it was very compelling. Something was
Yeah.
always happening and unfolding.
Yeah.
It
I
felt
think
like
the
there was
director
nothing
maybe.
happening here.
Yeah,
You
you're
had
absolutely right.
dynamic characters. You had your
Yeah.
actual base under siege. They were like going somewhere the whole time that we never get
Yeah.
to. So like,
Yeah.
what was the real danger they were in besides, I don't know, the
Yeah,
fact that they had to tell a story?
Yeah.
The danger was bad
Yeah.
haircuts. That was the danger.
Yeah.
I would have to go back and watch it again to find out exactly what that story was. Because,
I
like
watched
you
it
said,
twice and I
you
still
take
Do it.
No,
you
I'm
take
still none the
Midnight.
wiser.
Midnight first watch, you know what's happening.
Yeah.
It is a it's gripping. You're on the edge of your seat by the end when the doctor's on his knees and he's crying, and that one was warranted, not like the every week that we get here nowadays.
Absolutely.
But then you take this episode that we saw again, once one room, and for the whole thing, I was bored to tears, didn't know what was going on, and after a while, I didn't even care.
Yeah.
Same.
Well, later on,
I would have tuned out if I was a
Later on-
BB.
later on, I do have the some of the transcript because I think one of the issues was, I mean, I was engaged to a point, but I know why people said bored, but I was engaged because number one, I was trying to focus on the accents because there were some bits I was struggling to actually hear because they were saying them quietly. And I was trying to just get attuned and work out what was going on. And I thought, well, it's bound to be metaphorical. It's bound to be this. So I was trying to go and engage with it. And then I found myself thinking, do you know what? The BBC quite happily in the United Kingdom will have, if they go up to Newcastle upon Tyne, they may have subtitles for a Newcastle person who speaking English. And they will put subtitles because they have a strong Newcastle accent. I was wondering why they wouldn't dare do that on Doctor Who Tonight because I was struggling.
Yeah,
I
it was
too.
the sound was actually mixed badly.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because of the accent. It was actually the sound. My wife noticed it even. It was like, why did it get so soft all of a sudden? The music's loud and then everything dipped. I don't know. You all noticed it, right? Yeah, it was just poorly put
I
together.
felt it in the editing overall, but I agree. The music was up at some points. I just felt being jerked around all over the place in the editing.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Well, you're on the back of a spider. That's why.
So it was deliberate then.
Yeah, it's meta.
Genius.
I needed more than 2 scenes of the spider then to really get that effect.
Actually, and it was a beautiful effect. I personally really loved that spider. I didn't want him to die. I liked him. You know, I thought, wow, look at that powerful beast. You run. But and there was a funny way that when you saw the web and all the rest of it, were you thinking Web of Fear and thinking how? Because you had that lovely moment in the Web of Fear when you had the web around the TARDIS.
That is what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just thought how. You know, a great effect in 2025. Look at that spider. And somehow, and I loved seeing I've got a photograph later and you can see the little barber shop on its back. And I thought, wow, look at this. But it just didn't go anywhere. And the story didn't land. It was too intangible. What do you reckon, Christian, as an English teacher? I found that it was just so many words that you couldn't do lots. Your mind had to do lots of mind tricks, and actually you were still just sat in a barber shop, and so you couldn't really see that what we're in space, but we're not, and we're doing this and we're doing that, and there was just too much going on.
Well, that's where the fantasy element becomes a problem here. What they needed to have was an actual location, i.e., the spider is in an alternate dimension, a pocket universe. It's understood that one of the deities or a group of the deities is living at the other end of this space-time continuum, and they need to power the spider to get that far, but nothing's ever made clear. Where is it moving to? Where is it moving from? Why does it need to move at all if it's multidimensional? So they end up using this fantasy element, and it totally undercuts the significance of the story at all, because it doesn't make sense if you actually analyze it. It's bad writing.
Now, a few people, Kevin McCullough, and I agree with you, Kevin, and I've got a picture to prove it because it's already prepared. The Doctor goes for a haircut, ending with a rehash of the ruins of Akadan. Yes.
Yeah.
Robert Payne, a spider got burned and exploded this time rather than suffocated. Yeah, that's very true, yes. Over the Overseer, I only really struggled with the actor, the barber, and his line delivery was odd and diction very unclear. All the other supporting actors were absolutely fine, though, and very clear. You know my point. There were some bits when it went lower, and I can see Simon Anthony, who's good on all that editing stuff. But I'm not looking for trouble. I found it hard. I was engaged because Jamie was saying he was bored rigid, and I was going, were you? And then I was thinking, hold on, maybe I would be bored if I hadn't been engaged trying to work out, is there a deeper layer to this, and trying to get into it. But the thing is, it is ironic that they would show a Newcastle person, somebody born in Britain, speaking the King's English, and they would show subtitles. No problem at all, because London people don't travel north. They're very ignorant people, and they're not used to our accents, so they have subtitles. But when it comes to a Nigerian accent, no problem. We're not doing that. That would be patronizing. I mean, get over yourself. I think they don't know who their audience are anymore.
No, the level of the problem, like what I'm noticing is that with all the money that they have, they're throwing it into these outrageous visuals with that spider crawling around and spinning the web. And then the dialogue as well. They're turning to the little soap operas, and it's boring you to tears. And I was just telling my wife last night about how it was, you profane the sacred stone, and Tom Baker's just putting the yo-yo up and down, and then he's told again, you profane the sacred stone, and he says, oh, come on, Hieronymus, we don't need all this talk about sacred stones and profanity. Just be your normal horrid self. And I was like, why can't we have dialogue like this anymore? Exactly. Why do they have to try to be so clever that it's like we're not reading a Jane Austen novel or Great Gatsby? It's Doctor Who. Tone it down. Let's have some fun. Let's have some scares.
Well, I would fun they're trying to be clever. They're just being self-indulgent.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. Stakes. What if, for example, one of the victims who's been brought into the barbershop fails to tell a story that is successful, and all of a sudden their body kind of shrivels up as all the energy is sucked out of them, and they fall to the floor dead, and they realize, oh my gosh, it's not just telling stories, it's got to be a specific kind of story or the consequence is fatal. And this guy's going to have to go out and find another person to replace the guy who just died.
Dee, how dare you insinuate that a black person can do something wrong, like tell a bad story? That's insane that you would suggest they would put that in the script. That's absolutely out of pocket.
Can I just
sunny.
Now, can I just make a link to today's Doctor Who episode and our recent cultural history, and then an old Doctor Who episode? So here we go. As you saw him very happy to be in Lagos. Now, I want to just remind everybody of the 2012 London opening ceremony, which I thought was bloody good. It went through did the Industrial Revolution, did the whole lot, and it had a very diverse cast, because in Britain, that's what we do now. So basically, although it was technically, historically, completely inaccurate, we had a diverse cast, and nobody had any issue because Britain was a settled country. You can even see in some of the photographs that when we're showing them playing cricket, and when you can see people being the first industrialists, you've got black and white there. No issue at all. And that is 2012. And we even had, there's the Windrush ship in part of our London opening ceremony, which used to bring the immigrants from the West Indies to start a new life in Britain in the 1950s and 60s. You know, this was 2012. And I feel as though I don't know why I'm being educated now on all this stuff. There's Lagos today, very diverse. Remember Martha Jones's mum in the program saying when she saw the British royal family balcony and she said, "What a white balcony." She got away with that. Well, I won't say the reverse, but yes, that's Lagos today. And then we had Thin Ice, didn't we? With Peter Capaldi and Bill Potts. And this was a shot of Britain in 1814 when we had the River Thames was frozen. Now, I will just ask you to take a look. You've got, there's Lagos today, and they have no problem depicting it like that. The BBC are so proud of it. And there we've got. Now, Bill Potts obviously is part of the regular cast, and you will see two people behind who are not, who have what you'd expect accurately of 1814 Britain. Oh, there's another one. And I didn't have to do much, you know, and let's have a look. Oh God, he's in the army. Oh, right, okay.
Brendan.
Yeah. Oh, and there's another one. Okay, right. I couldn't keep up. This is still, and that was a different person. I'm not doubling up here, by the way. These are all different cast members, and that was 1814 London, by the way.
Yeah.
Take a look.
Brendan, you're kicking bum tonight because you've brought up something that's been a bugbear of mine for so long. This, what do they call it? Colorblind casting or something. I don't like it. They just didn't exist like that. It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. It's a lie. Now, I understand they're saying, I know, but we want to show the world as it should be now and all the rest of it. Okay, but why haven't they changed what Lagos looks like? When they did the Lagos markets, therefore they should have made it look like it should look in a perfect world, but they didn't, because they want it to be authentic. They said on Unleashed, authentic. Well, I would like to see an authentic 1814 Britain, if you don't mind.
You nailed it.
And they're selective in their authenticity, Brendan.
Yeah.
Remember the phrase that they had Capaldi say, history is a whitewash.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that line.
Yeah, and there was a good line in it because Bill Potts said, "I don't know if should I feel safe here." She said, "You know, the slave trade," and she reminds Capaldi's doctor, and quite rightly, so it's in the script. That's fine, but hello. So that's 1814 London, but Lagos looks very like authentic.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a word for everything. And by the way, here we go. This is kids playing in 1814 London. I mean, yeah, right on. Yeah. The Artful Dodger was black. Yeah, we know. Honestly, just stop it. It's all one way. I just won't have it anymore. I've had enough. I've waited too long. And yet we had a very diverse London Olympics depicting. How come this is all getting... I feel as though... Was the essence of the show tonight, the story in the engine, Anaya Elams was trying to say, stories are important. They cross-connect cultures. They bring cultures together. They bring people together. They bring memories together. They make people... it's the power of the story. And yet I've just shown you examples where the British story is being eroded deliberately because we're not allowed to keep our stories. So therefore, I'm saying I didn't like tonight's program because it is a fraud.
Yeah,
that's fair.
If you watch Talons of Wang Chiang, you do have to cut out Li Sing Chang for obvious reasons. But other than that, I will defend that episode, that story to the death. The language even that they used in that episode, they dropped the other C word, if you recall correctly. Starts with C and rhymes with inks.
Yeah.
That was a sign of the time. That's how it was back then. I spoke to a friend of mine. He's actually, he was a Muslim, and he is Muslim. And he told, as soon as I even mentioned this to him, he said, "Oh yeah, back in the days of the opium dens." And I was like, "You know about that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "So this is all authentic?" And he's like, "Yep." Everything in this is all authentic. The only thing that wasn't was the white actor wearing the Chinese makeup.
Well, I even forgive that though, Brian. To be honest, and maybe it's just my age, but what they were trying to do was the trope of the Fu Manchu movies, where Christopher Lee played the villain, and he was in. I mean, I know Yellowface is bad, but I think that's why they did it. But I agree with you totally. It was a sign of the era, and it gets a lot of bad flack unnecessarily, I think.
No, I think if you're going to do a historical story, you should do it right.
Yep.
And stick
absolutely.
to your guns, do it as it should be. And if you get any flack for it, it's like, hey, look, we're doing accuracy here.
Yeah, I think those stories come out better, and they last longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, authentic has to be the byword by everything, and you know, if it looks as though they're trying to preserve what Nigeria is as a culture to be depicted, and just do the same for everyone else. Tim Kinsey, after Thin Ice, Moffat even admitted it was all nonsense and said they were lying to make history better, which is literally what a villain in a time travel story would say. And it just breaks it all apart, really. Now, Simon Anthony, naughty boy, you're saying I'm being paranoid. There's nothing paranoid about me putting on the TV.
How are you being paranoid?
I'm showing you facts, Simon. Why are you arguing with what I've shown you from Thin Ice and the 2012, 13 years ago, Simon Anthony, 13 years ago, the British country projected a diverse society, even though it was historically inaccurate for what it was showing in the actual ceremony. And yet we can't do that elsewhere. It's not paranoid. I think it's just hypocritical, I think is the word you were trying to grab. I'm just pointing out that RTD he sometimes forgets he's not unnecessary on the right side of the argument. Remember, Brendan, it is okay to do colorblind casting until it becomes minority casting. They can't swap or misrepresent. Thank you, Rachel. I know.
Beautifully said, Rachel. Beautifully said.
I know. Can't wait to get her on tomorrow night. Simon Anthony, it's not a fraud, as I pointed out. Ncuti said in some places, are you really saying there was never any discrimination? No, I'm pointing out the main projection of what's going on, Simon Anthony, as you know well. So there you go. That's my what the F at the moment. I mean, God, how many items do you want there, Simon Anthony? I mean, you know, I do my due diligence. And this one has got everybody going as well. He said in seconds of this episode, it's the first time I've had this black body. And suddenly you're going, hello. As you said, Brian, have they forgotten their own canon here?
Well, somebody in the thread said that he has no memory of this at all.
Yeah. I think I can't believe I'm defending him. I think he may have meant this black male body, perhaps, but it was really clumsy.
That's the subtitles, Doug. Actually, from the show, it's the first time I've had this black body. He says.
Okay.
I mean, the subject is black and racism that he's going to be subjected to.
Yeah.
But we do know that in the past, but somebody in the thread had pointed out that he doesn't remember it. And of course, I wouldn't know that because I tuned out of Jodie Whittaker's era after, I don't know, what was it? The Spiders, something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Is the fact that it's the fugitive doctor who had the arrangement, the bet with Abby's father about marrying Abby. So we're talking about, given the culture, that may have actually been frowned upon in that corner of the globe, had that been a real world event. So there were just a lot of problems with the way this story was constructed. Definitely. And the fugitive doctor was a big part of that.
Yeah. Now, Simon I do know they did a Zoom shot. They went to Lagos with the drone and they got a wide angle shot because it was cheaper than actually filming there. I know. I saw the same story you did. But I'm still making the same point that the BBC like to depict certain things and they like to say that Britain was built by people it wasn't built by. And I'm just pointing out that they're kind of platforming and progressive kind of, punch bag is just a load of empty air. And I'm just pointing it out, Simon Anthony, as I should, because I'm a good lad and I'm a historian, and I can't abide lies. Simon, stop defending liars. Okay, so you've got the fugitive doctor here. She had a good time for her. She only had about 2 lines, but in a different now, lads, is there something happening? Is there something going on here? She says, in a different story that might be finished one day. Stories.
I think they're baiting us, aren't they? They're baiting us. I hope there's a payoff to this, or it was a total wasted opportunity.
I mean, she's been in a lot of stories, but only for like seconds. Fugitive of the Doom was obviously the bigger one. Timeless Children, Once Upon a Time, The Power of the Doctor. I mean, they keep revisiting her.
They keep doing it, but I don't have confidence that it's going to have payoff. They're revisiting her because they can. It's
I agree.
Gimmick casting.
Yes. Well, she's popular. She's probably more popular than Jodie for the small time she was in the show, and she actually had gravitas to her performance. And I could probably watch maybe a special based around her. I do like the character, but I think they're just playing with us just for a gimmick. I think you're right, Christian.
Anyway, Doug, don't go too positive because Simon Anthony's getting silly now.
What's he saying?
Simon, come on. Right, I've had enough. This is simply harping on all of us negative aspects. Can I tell you editorially how I structure my program, Simon? You've been on them. I structure them to start with, on Sunday night, it's burning issues, controversies, and things that we want to get off our chest. And on the Who night, we start with what the F. Do you understand that now? I have a structure. Then we go through the storyline. Then we go through various other things. You know that you were on the first one. So stop pretending you don't know what you know.
Well, I would say, to follow up on what Simon is pointing out, no wonder the show is tanking. Here's the thing. If it was all stellar, if it was all ice cream and sprinkles, then there wouldn't be any drop-off in views. Yeah. What we're discussing here is indicative of why the show is dropping. If it was successful, if people were responding the way Simon would like them to respond, this would not be a going concern. Yeah. But the loss in views speaks for itself.
You're spot on, Krista. And also, don't forget, this is an unfiltered program, and this is probably what the general public would do. They're not going to go back and watch it a second and third time like we do. They turn it on, they go, this is not for me, and we've lost them. And that's exactly what's happening.
Do you know what this reminds me of? If there are any Canadian viewers watching right now, we had these segments on CBC growing up when I was a kid, and I think they brought them back fairly recently. They were called Heritage Moments, about Canadian history. They did the Underground Railroad with smuggling the slaves in. So they would have like a little 2-minute clip about that little piece of Canadian history, or they would have another one about how they were using Chinese to go into the mines. And basically, it's like, well, we're going to risk anyone's life. We're going to risk that. And the whole point was to educate you on the history of your country, the good, the bad. There was some really great stuff. And it just seems like Doctor Who has adopted this kind of storytelling where they're taking these, what I would call heritage moments, and making a huge story about it and just putting a little bit of science fiction window dressing around it. And it's boring people to tears. It's boring me to tears. Yeah, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for making me watch this, Brendan.
Well, Mrs. Pertwee, I'll put her up. Mrs. Lisa Pertwee says, "I remember I'm Canadian," so she's agreeing with me there.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Now,
I can say this, Brendan. Brian's had good company. Remember, Brendan forced Sonny to watch Dot and Bubble.
Oh yeah, what a sadistic sod!
Yeah,
we're so sorry. We're so sorry, Sonny, for what you've been put through. I apologise on behalf of the whole team.
Now, the other thing, remember, he's obviously gone now, Simon, because he's forgotten. He's been on this show before, but with the what the F, I don't write the blooming scripts, but if I have a what the F item, I will raise the what the F item. And I'm sorry, but they've littered the script with issues. Did you see this moment? He said, I used to call it the World Wide Web.
Yes.
Until
yes.
until the humans named something far uglier after that. Now, again, can I go back to the 2012 London Olympic opening ceremony again? And in it, the British are so proud that Sir Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. And in that opening ceremony, he was hiding in that big house in the middle and he typed those words to the world. This is for everyone, the World Wide Web. And then he appeared, the house disappeared and everybody applauded him because he's a British citizen who invented the World Wide Web, which apparently a Nigerian poet is telling me is something far uglier. Honestly, erasing history. Again, are you baiting people? Are you erasing a story because you don't like it? Why is that dialogue in there? Why? What's wrong with the World Wide Web?
Brendan, I think that was an insert from RTD or his contribution against the evil trolls, that have channels like SenseSphere who are not buying what RTD is selling.
Spot on, Christian. That's exactly how I saw it.
I mean, last week we had the stuff about conspiracy theories and anti-vax and all the rest of it. But this is different. The World Wide Web is just a platform. If people misuse it, that doesn't mean the World Wide Web is bad.
That's exactly right.
Now, as a teacher, I know how the World Wide Web is really fascinating, that the kids can read, the kids can learn so much. There used to be a documentary that I did a training course, and it showed you kids in India. Varada Sethu might be interested in this. In India, and they're in a little village, and they put, it was like an ATM, like where you'd go to, get money out. And instead it was a computer screen. And that computer screen was all, they could access the World Wide Web, but it would only be in the English language. And these are Indians. And these Indian children were so intrigued and curious, and they kept playing. Soon, they were able to access it via the English language. Soon they were learning about nuclear physics. And they showed you how if you allow the kids to inquire, and if you give them the right tools, they will just fly educationally. So the World Wide Web should not be dissed by a silly, stupid, ignorant writer who doesn't know his facts and just wants to score a cheap political point. It's not good enough, BBC. Stop it.
That's exactly what it was. That stuck out like a sore thumb to me. Once again, Brendan, you brought it up better than I could. That just really riled me. It was just so clumsy.
What's stupid is the BBC did the London opening ceremony as well. So they're arguing with themselves. They had Tim Berners-Lee as a centerpiece, and now they want to write a bit that says it's an ugly thing. Honestly, get over yourselves. 13 years we've gone backwards, not forwards, BBC. Get over yourself. Now, Hasler Scott, very nice of you to do this. Thank you. Ticket sales and ratings don't lie. Corpers do. That's it. Done. Now, as a thank you, here we go.
That is great.
That's
Love it.
Excellent.
Well, the puppets are really busy, as everybody knows on our super chats, because I'm so triggered by this, but they are busy. Look, I'll show you. They're in the switchboard now. Oh. There you go. So they're all busy at the moment.
I love it.
Oh God, they're very alive, everybody. So thank you.
Well done. Well done.
That's the winner.
Oh,
So
Brendan.
Thomas McCarthy, you don't get many actors from minority groups. I remember Chinese actor always in everything in the 60s. Pink Panther, Doctor Who, The
Burt
Champion.
Kwok. Yeah, Burt
Yeah,
Kwok.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Absolutely.
he's
Tenko.
also
Yeah.
For the Doomsday.
Yeah.
Yes,
He was in For the
yes.
Doomsday.
And he was very good in Tenko as well. But yeah, I look, the world has become a better place. I'm sorry, but some people are still trying to kind of tell a different story. Where we live, you know, Canada, Britain, America, away. Stop it. It's not about the political leaders. It's about the people. The people are lovely. Stop it. Just stop it. Dick's Enormous. What was weird was the 15th Doctor actually remembering something
I
from that
love that
time.
name.
How did he remember? How did he remember the bet with an answer? Oh, I've got some great people. I mean, I always read them out, I tell you, because it gets a laugh anyway.
Most
Jim
haven't,
Morton.
most speaking.
Being able to access primary sources without having to travel thousands of miles to fiddle with microfiche is amazing. The fact that RTD only uses a net to insult people is his problem. Yeah, Burt Kwok, everybody's yes, joining in on that one. People obviously liked a cheer up with the puppets. Well, they're busy, they're doing what they can. Right. Believe it or not, they're what they have to keep going. You know, come on.
Wow, that was an hour, wasn't it?
I know. I told you. So what have we got next? Well, we've got this. Yes, I saw a spooky kid back there. Now, you know when Belinda saw that little kid,
Yeah.
what were you thinking?
Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. They're not going to pay this off. That's just a
You ready?
Yeah.
Doug, I've done my dig in. Are you ready?
Okay, what have you found?
Take a look
It's
at
a
that
puppet.
girl.
It's a puppet,
Ready?
isn't it? Oh! Oh.
A lot of people are wondering whether it's the space baby who ended up going to that planet. You know, he had them all dropped off. She disappeared. Is it Poppy, Captain Poppy from the Space Babies? Because Anita Dobson gave an interview to fans,
Oh.
and she was actually saying that, I mean, okay, she'll big up RTD, but RTD, I agree with this, that RTD doesn't put anything into a script without a payoff. He doesn't. So Wild Blue Yonder was a waste of space, but for the salt, that's what he needed for the fantasy stuff. These babies, he's taken so much flack. Why did he start season 1 with the space babies? And there is a possibility that there's going to be some payoff at some point. What are you thinking, Christian?
I think you're right. RTD, when he was doing his job better, would effectively pay off certain setups, but that's not been our experience in recent years. In his mind, for example, he may have a payoff that's supposed to take place, quote, at the end of a 3-year run, as you would have had with Tennant, but he's not going to get that 3rd year. And so if there is supposed to be a payoff with Captain Poppy, maybe it's not coming. It's also just as possible that she was planted to represent something else, and it's just the same actress on the screen.
That's
and
what I reckon.
I'm not sure yet what the payoff is, but we only have 3 episodes to find out.
Well, as you can see, I'm putting them up. A lot of the thread are saying there's the talk that in the future, in a future episode, it does pay off, and it said Poppy in the credits. I didn't see. I've got the credits actually in a minute. I can show them. But yeah, some are saying it's the Snot Monster, it's the Valiard, it's the Fugitive Doctor. Well, we've had Scooby-Doo mentioned in Lux, and as Lee Smith says here, Poppy Power. Remember blooming Scrappy Doo? Oh God, he wrecked the show.
They're not that. Yeah, dude, they're not that clever.
Over the other sea, we never got an explanation for what happened in 73 yards. So don't hold your breath, Brendan. But that that magic circle that he stood in and disappeared. I had a vibe of that. Did you, when you saw how he made this World Wide Web with some string and bric-a-brac and a god's essence? Really? Do you know, it takes me back to when he milks the queen bat to me. It's that nonsense again. I mean, he's got some God's essence. I didn't ask any details. What does he mean by God's essence?
In Australia, we call it spoof, don't we? I'm stealing Dan from Detox. He brought that up beautifully.
So,
I love
what
that
about
expression?
What about this element in What the F? The seeing the doctors.
Oh, yeah, come on.
That annoyed me to no end.
Me too.
Go on, Brian.
Well, what else can I say? I mean, this is a prime example of RTD putting in these images of old Who for us to say, oh, look, it's our doctors. And it's like, yeah, but if you take garbage and put it in a box and put up a bow in it and say, hey, look, it's all it's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, there's no substance to it. I mean, all it is just a flash to make us all say, hey, there's our doctor. But at the core of it, it's just a terrible episode.
That was it. That was it, Brian. Brian, my this is what my issue is, because they've done it in Power of the Doctor. They've done it in Rogue. Remember, in Rogue, an episode that really did mess with what the Doctor's character was. You can't unravel that episode because in it you saw the Schalke Doctor, you saw all the Doctors, because that's what Rogue saw. It seems to me a controversial episode, or an episode that does something particularly different. They wrap it. It's like wrapping yourself in the flag. He wraps himself in all the Doctors so that you can't actually unpick it, and it's to try and give it an immunity belt.
Yeah, immunity belt is a good way of putting it. I was about to say contrived ethos, credibility. You're trying to rub off some weight of resonance on what ultimately is a controversial or weak product. He knows, RTD has to know that this version of Doctor Who is not being well received. So what do? You try and soft pedal it with images from the classic version of the show and hope that it sells, that it makes a connection. And what it actually has the effect of doing is tarnishing those previous installments, sheerly by association. So I'm not fond of that.
Yeah. No, Sonny, what about you?
Well put.
Very well put.
Sonny,
we got nothing from.
Yeah, Sonny, it seems to be blank at the moment. Go on. No.
Oh, I thought Sonny was quiet.
Yeah, Sonny, it's quiet at the moment. We'll keep going, but as I've got Tomboy Chicks saying here,
can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yeah. I'll bring you in a minute, Sonny. But
okay, that Brendan what was happening. I messed up my mic. Sorry.
Yeah. Brendan is obsessed with the Queen Bat's milk. Hey, Tomboy Chick, I'm not a one-trick pony. I'm also obsessed by pillars, as you know.
Yeah.
But go on, Sonny. What were your thoughts on seeing all these classic Doctors? We've got we are troubled by it because we think you're trying to just kind of protect the episode.
I don't think it tarnishes the older stuff. I completely disagree with that, but it's definitely like forced hypnosis to make you like the episode. You can't say the episode's bad now because you got your favorite Doctor scene in there, and one of my favorite scenes were in there, the Capaldi speech in the Zygon version. I love that stuff, but like it didn't ruin that episode for me or Capaldi. It's just I know it's bad. That's all.
That was actually the best part of this episode.
Yeah,
hearing that speech again.
It's so cheap.
That's what I find is going on online in this World Wide Web. I find today that the people who are saying, and look, I'm not in denial. I'll show you now. Let's just get my right. Here we go. The reactions of people, you get, Cyber Bloke will say, I didn't really follow it at all. The first miss of the series so far. That was just what they said. Here's Rachel. Rachel, thanks for the lecture, Doctor Who. I wasn't aware that I needed one. By the way, the Doctor has his home. It's called the TARDIS. He's not a refugee, and whoever is the continuity checker seemed to have missed one big thing. Joe Martin was the first Black Doctor. And then we've got Adam. Didn't like it as much as I'd wanted to. I liked the concept, which had some fresh themes we hadn't really seen before, but the story's weighed down by heavy exposition, which just makes this episode drag by the end.
Oh my gosh.
I loved the whole beginning, the middle. I loved the portraying of culture and how it was talked about the betrayal, the visuals, the storytelling, about the storytelling. Yes, I did not like the twist, and it became quite slow. I won't do all these, don't worry. Not for me. Felt a lot like a Chibnall episode. Also had a lot of what I don't like about the Chibnall era. Very exposition heavy. So I noticed when people started saying how much they loved this episode, these other ones, they were saying, oh, they had Jodie in. Oh, they had so-and-so in. And so for one split second, they suddenly think it's the most amazing episode. And you're thinking, wow, you're so easily pleased.
The bar is low.
Very low.
That's fanboy pandering. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, who's going to see? I don't know how they can write something like that and think that we're going to see it and think that, oh, this is great. Look, the doctor's there. Our doctor's there. It's like, yeah, and in 2 seconds we're going right back to this boring episode again.
It's interesting you say that, because I was watching, after I'd watched the episode, I was curious to see what some people thought, and there were quite a few podcasts that were calling this the greatest thing ever. I thought, am I going to be an outlier? And there was one particular guy, I won't mention him. He's a fairly high profile podcaster, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically saying anyone that didn't like this episode is a right wing grifter. So I guess I'm a right wing grifter, because I didn't like it at all.
No. Well, I
lefty. Ultimate lefty here.
Yeah, well, me too. I thought I was.
Well, I've written down, I mean, I've got examples here because I am trying to be balanced. I'll give my opinion because I'm trying to be authentic me. But basically, this person gives them it's 8.5 out of 10, and I've put it up on the screen. Stellar performances. I've not knocked the performances. I've not some of them. I will talk about the visual stuff later and all the rest of it. But yeah. Somebody else says it's okay. Somebody else, or JWC reviews, just watch Doctor Who. Spoilers, it was a load of old bollocks. See, obviously it wasn't for him, but then you've got somebody like Ryan saying 9.5 out of 10 or 5 out of 5, and that cameo took me off guard in the best way possible. Again, easily pleased by 2 lines by a fugitive doctor. I mean, it's neither here nor there. It doesn't make it a story. Mrs. Flood in the hospital saying, "I've come to get my pills."
I missed that the first time round. That's how brief it was.
Yeah,
you watched it twice.
I like the Mrs. Flood part because it established that she was really rooting herself in Belinda's life, to the point of first name basis, and it makes the robot revolution make a little more sense. But I like Mrs. Flood since the beginning, so
I know you do.
I blame you, Sonny. You're the reason I saw it 3 times.
What is wrong with you people? I watched it once and I said I'm never doing that again.
It was kind of an accident.
You're the only sane person here, mate.
Thank you.
The other thing is, I just want to ask a few questions about our doctor again. Here he said we drank so much wine we caused a drought in Athens. So he quite happily had people dying and impoverished because he had a drinking bout. I've never heard this about the doctor before.
Yes, since when has the doctor been a pisshead? I'm not aware.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah. Well, Colin Baker's doctor was talking about the night in the fountain with Asmael.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the only time he ever actually talked about getting drunk, I think.
Yes. But
Pertwee's doctor also had wine. Tom also had wine.
He loved his wine and cheese.
Yeah, we're talking getting drunk, though.
But we're talking drought. I mean,
we're talking hammered.
A drought. I caused a drought. Droughts normally cause death. So, interesting.
Well, you have to ask yourself, Brendan, if he's saying that he caused a drought when he was drinking all this, which version of the doctor went on that binge? My assumption is this is the only doctor I know of that's a complete hedonist. All about gratification. would do something like that. But when he had time, maybe it was after he dropped off Ruby Sunday and he decided to go party. I don't know. But the only one who'd do it.
But now, when I see those episodes when David Tennant is crying, at the end of the season, and he's said goodbye to Donna Noble and stuff like that, and there's tears in the TARDIS, I now understand why. Because he was a white doctor, he couldn't go to the barber's shop, and he was gutted because he's lonely in the TARDIS. Whereas, why? So why is our 15th Doctor always crying in the TARDIS when he said goodbye to Ruby Sunday? All he had to do was go to the barber's shop and have a chit chat.
You bring up an interesting point there, Brendan. I think someone else mentioned this in something I watched. So when the Doctor regenerates again, is he going to pop back to the barber shop then? I don't think he is he? He's
not unless he has the right face on.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
silly.
promoting
It's
racism.
Silly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, Stephen Braddock is saying people are saying Ncuti didn't cry, but he did. Yes, well, there's the shot.
I
missed that.
Yeah,
he's just I
remember
the tears are welling up.
Yeah,
look at that.
Now, Brian, can you remember why he was upset though?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I remember he tricked me. I was faked out because I was like, he's not gonna cry. He looks like he's about to cry. Then they switched, and then they went back, and he was sobbing. I was like, they tricked me again.
This was their soap opera moment, and I was so bored. I can't remember half of the reasons why anything happened in this episode.
Was this Christian? Was this the moment when Omo had let him down and betrayed him? Remember that bit?
Yeah, that was it.
Omo is a brand of washing powder in my country. They're choosing some strange names.
But Brendan, the thing about this that didn't ring true with me is, I'm disappointed that you kind of lured me in. On the other hand, I'm the only person here who can do what needs to be done. So you made the right call. I don't believe any other version of the Doctor would have attacked verbally his former friend.
Yeah.
Could you picture, I don't know, David Tennant or Eccleston, Matt Smith saying, "You've betrayed me," and attacked them? How did Capaldi react when Clara was, quote, destroying the keys in order to manipulate him? There was no sense of hostility there, and yet there was a clear attack from Gatwa, and I said, this is not the Doctor. Not the Doctor.
Not Doctor Who.
No. It wasn't consistent either, because he forgave him pretty quickly later.
Very dynamic.
Yeah, and so there's so many. I mean, some of these are not the what if. This is now just me picking at certain things as well. And this missing element, I found it fascinating that when everybody, I mean, I'm sorry, and it's sad this because I've traveled the world, I've backpacked and everything. When you see missing posters and various things, you half register. I don't pour over them, and yet look, there's loads on that wall, and every time they walked into the barber's shop, Belinda and the Doctor said, "You're the missing people." I thought, oh
yeah,
rubbish.
I noticed that.
Absolute rubbish. That's too nah. Now anyway, my main point is, if he was hungry for stories to fire up this spider, why did he only stick at those 4? Why didn't he keep getting more and more people in there? Because they were running out of stories, so he needed more people. How come the whole of Lagos wasn't missing?
Well, none of it made sense. I mean, speaking of stories, why did the Doctor, other than an obvious flashback, do the story about Belinda? And by the way, all of a sudden, Belinda is better than doctors now. She saved a woman's life because she cares. What's going on? That flashback really jarred on me.
Well,
I don't know if you're going to bring it up later, but it jarred on me badly.
Well, that also jarred because you'd had they decided stylistically to show every story in cartoon.
And then this one was real, yeah.
And then that was real, and I thought, oh, right, you're stylistically going all over the shop. But this is a plot hole, isn't it? Or is this a plot element that doesn't make sense? Why didn't he have more people missing?
I don't know. It makes no sense. None of this makes any sense.
But this goes back to what I was saying earlier. If people start missing and you realize we see one person succumb to a poor story experience, and you realize, oh, they're missing. Look, they've been talking about 50 people missing in the local area, and you realize this is what's happened to them. This is dangerous. There are now stakes involved. People actually die. But of course, if people were actually dying, it would have been a little bit harder or more contrived for the doctor to let the storyteller off the hook. So
Yeah,
I
what was
don't know.
that was a weird resolution, wasn't it? Everyone just get let off the hook. The other thing that bugged me, and this is probably just my strange brain, they're apparently they're there for about 6 months, and I know the woman came in to give them food, but where did they shower? Where did they sleep? Where did they go to the toilet? I mean, come on. I know it probably doesn't matter in the greater scheme of things, but my brain was going, what the hell, or what the f?
Well, there's all these unanswered questions. What about this one? Right, I'm going to ask the American first English teacher. Sonny, do you read Ernest Hemingway?
Of course he does.
No, I don't read Ernest Hemingway.
Well, Ernest Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea, and all the rest of it. Hemi baby, write me the shortest. Again, this doctor is doing my head in, saying to other men, baby. I'm sorry. How many times must he have been punched? No wonder he goes to this barber shop. Mind you, going to a Lagos barber shop, does he call them baby in there? I think he'd be decked. Because in that country, I'll remind you again, homosexuality is illegal. So a man saying baby to another man, I don't think it's going to get you far. Ncuti, pull back. It's so affected. It's pathetic. But on the Ernest Hemingway point, Christian, was he? I was trying to check. Was he gay or anything? Because why would the doctor be calling him baby?
Hemingway was straight as the day was long. He was depressed, but he wasn't.
That's just what this doctor does. Hey, babe. Hey, baby. That's just what he
dropped
does.
for this episode.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. I've never read Hemingway. I'm embarrassed to say. However,
I'm not embarrassed to say I've never read it. I've seen a few movie versions.
But I'm
He didn't
sure
like Doctor Who.
I'm sure Boomer Doug would approve. I have seen Creator with Peter O'Toole and Muriel Hemingway, and that was very nice.
Anything with Peter O'Toole is good. I do approve.
Well, Demorpin is agreeing here. Hemi baby, nuclear levels of cringe. It's just like I said, I think a week or so back, when we were getting lectured on which pronouns were appropriate to use, and it was relevant to an episode of Doctor Who. Why have we got a man talking to another man saying baby nearly every week now? Is, I think, inappropriate, actually, because baby as a noun, is that diminishing you? Don't tell me it's a term of affection, because you can't do that in Nigeria. I'm just reminding people of the truth. Can't do it.
It's a gay stereotype is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's I know we've talked about this before, and some people, there's a whole spectrum of people who are very flamboyant to you wouldn't even know unless you asked me, point blank. And this guy, it's getting really boring. I mean, like, I haven't watched much of them, but every time I've tuned in or watched clips online, it's always, hey baby, hey baby, hey baby, hey baby, hey baby, hey baby, and it's so annoying. I can't imagine why people are tuning in to watch this.
Now, I want to ask everybody about this. The doctor now is amazing. The doctor is a taxi driver, a plumber, a caretaker, a farmer, and now he's a fireman.
I know.
I mean, I didn't RTD himself write the Christmas Invasion about the doctor's not always here to save Earth. That was the whole point. And now we get the story under RTD saying he keeps going back to check on the fires and this, that, and the other, or he goes there a lot. And I'm thinking, we're getting two different versions of Doctor Who here.
We got to show Gatwa saving somebody.
Yeah, he's got to. That's exactly right.
That's all.
He hasn't done much.
That's the only thing I can say. That's all I can say.
No,
At least he's saving someone.
Yeah.
So we've had the crying, and this was the bit that you were talking about. You planned this. You planned this, Homo. I have to
Yes, we
get
are.
these men home. And because I have no home, I'm what? I'm expendable. I thought it was a home for me. I was safe. And the doctor seems to get, that's why he gets so upset, because he seems to really need this barber shop. It's like a dependency thing.
Yeah.
So the 14th Doctor has problems and has to have his salad made for him by Donna Noble while he does her weeds. That's a strange relationship. And now the 15th Doctor, who says, "Oh, my mental health is fine now. I'm the better Doctor," seems to
Yes.
really need this barber shop. I'm worried for him, actually, really.
Yeah. He's more screwed up than any of them, and that you're dead right. When he was first introduced, he was supposed to be the one that had his shit together, wasn't he?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is so
Well, it's
inconsistent writing.
he has his stuff together because he's part of this tribe. Now that
That's
he's part of the
right.
tribalism, he has his own personal tribe. Now
Yeah.
he's mentally stable and he's better than everyone.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
I found this dialogue interesting because you
I
had,
know.
I found it problematic because when they were talking, he said, "You can finally take the throne and rule fairly and justly." And they were planning on looking at exploiting other black people while he took the throne. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is kind of not very progressive. This is very bad. This is, you know, very off note, really. I mean, Doug, this is kind of a bit worrying, isn't it, that you had black people who were about to be nasty to black people?
The whole episode just lost me, mate. I still wonder whether we were all watching the same episode sometimes. This when I first saw this episode, it just kind of washed over me, and I was watching it with my partner Samantha, and we couldn't work out what was going on. So
No.
No.
none of it
No.
made sense to me. Black people against black people, any of it. It was just,
The,
like I said, it was a talk fest. It was like watching a really bad stage play, and I get what they were trying to do, but it just didn't work for me. Maybe I'm just a thicko, but it didn't work for me.
no, I think that
No.
there are so many issues. So, for example, Christian, my problem is, again, we've got another episode, and some people say, oh, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, amazing,
Crazy.
because there's a second in it. But the truth is, a casual viewer would go, what's all is, the electric cinema, all the ideas about the resolution, seeing all the old doctors, the fugitive doctor suddenly appearing. If you hadn't seen that episode of the fugitive doctor, you wouldn't know who the hell she was. And
No.
there was so much that was not explained at all. And it was assuming a casual viewer. By the way, I was flicking over to check our opposition. Britain's Got Talent semi-final live had somebody pulling somebody across the stage with his eyelids, and the stage is going wild. And
I'd
there's
watch
glitter
that.
Yeah. And so
I'd
basically-
rather watch that.
Yeah. I'd rather it be done to me than ever watch this again.
over to you, Christian.
Yeah, it's a problem. You've lost a lot of the traditional viewing base of the show. Only a handful of the diehards remain, and they aren't gaining any casual viewers. So there's not a sense of communal memory of classic scenes that had happened in previous years, especially if you have to go back many years. So you're really assuming an understanding of these little Easter egg drops or references that people are not going to get, which actually has the effect of distracting from the story or slowing it down. It doesn't serve the plot or move it forward. This is, again, a sign of bad writing.
And of course, the Mrs. Flood thing is assuming so much. I mean, I suppose a casual viewer this time would have just seen that and not thought, "What it's by the by." It doesn't do anything. So I think this is the essence of it. When he ended the episode saying "Once upon a time," I do get a nasty, nasty feeling the season is going to end as a story and the Doctor's trapped.
I think every time you mention this in every episode we see, it reinforces more and more that I think, unfortunately, Brenda, you're going to be probably spot on, and that scares me.
What, that I'm right? No.
Well, that scares me because you're never right, but it scares me that you will be right and it's going to be terrible. 'Cause
Well,
I think you are right. It all makes sense.
I
What,
don't
that
want
this
that
is
to happen.
all going to be like a dream?
Surprise.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
kind of
we-
thing. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Brian, Joe Martin was given only one line really, and she mentions that her story might, she talked about her story.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
does Once Upon a Time. There's so many references to stories. And Brian, what you may not know is this shot here is from the second episode Lux, and they've turned it in. He said these stories fired him up. So the Doctor's stories, and that's also that's Lux, sorry, and that's from Robot. Oh, I'm getting it wrong, aren't I? There's a Robot Revolution one there. You can see the rocket as well. So basically, it's as if the Doctor's stories this season have been feeding the gods. I just think we're heading for close of book.
Well, that's my conjecture from the get go. We're going to see Mrs. Flood turning to some child, maybe Miss Poppy, Captain Poppy, closing it. Wasn't that a wonderful story? And closes the book. And until next time. And
I can see Russell doing that.
Yeah.
They all think they're so bloody
It's
clever,
clever
don't
and
they?
Controversial. It's
Now-
so
That's right.
fun to
They
be
all pat themselves
controversial.
on the back and down at the pub going, we're all so clever, aren't we? It's just,
Well,
no,
as
no.
Stephen Braddock is saying here, because obviously Rachel did her stream, and I asked her what she thought of it. I'm going to ask us all now, right? Everybody, having watched it, what was the story about? Because I'm really going to put you to the test now, because there's going to be no escape. Here we go. So this was his explanation. Now, does this make sense?
I'd love
Right?
an explanation. I'd love any explanation.
Right, okay, so let me just do it. I was once human. Whenever we told stories, the storytelling gods would grow in power. The gods needed to strengthen their bonds with humanity. Wherever they told stories, I went. I told them myths, their legends, cleaned them up, printed them in books, so he's a publisher, so that the gods could be worshipped. That was my job. They exist now because of me. He built, and then the Nexus he was asked about. And then he said about, go bigger there. I wanted something like the brain, flexible, strong, that could expand and make connections between ideas. So I took a strand of their God's blood and essence, bring back milk, and built a model, a web-like structure that they expanded to what you saw now, cross-connecting concepts, cultures, and ideas. So there you go. Does that make absolutely a lot of sense to you?
No, and I remember listening to him say it. It just went over my head. But again, maybe I'm a thicko. But no, it made no sense whatsoever.
Well, logically, Brendan, this is not. It makes no sense. You're talking about gods the world over. If he was once human, so you're telling me that in ancient Sumeria, he was recording the stories of the gods, and then he decided he was going to live another 1,000 years and migrate to the Mediterranean and start recording some more stories. And then he was going to head over to China and do the same thing. And then he was going to, and we're talking about multi-thousands of years as these tales are crafted, and he's recording them and publishing them. I didn't realize they had publishing houses in ancient Sumeria 4,000 years ago. That's a new one.
And the thing is, what I'm trying to get here is what he just told stories and then passed them on, and that gave him power. I don't understand how he. I'm really struggling with this one, right? And
I think we all were.
This is just pretentious twaddle. What?
Yes.
I miss the days when the Doctor would just run down corridors and run away from the Daleks, and that was it. This is just beyond me.
You see, Doug, these are the bits when I did turn over it as a comparative, and this is when somebody on the other side was pulling a truck with their eyelids.
And that was better, wasn't it?
And actually, it was exciting because it was the golden buzzer. Somebody did the golden buzzer, and the golden glitter went everywhere.
There was jeopardy. There was genuine jeopardy.
Meanwhile,
That's what we were missing.
Meanwhile, on this side, you had a very, very long piece of exposition. I've done people a favor by putting it all on one screen because this went on for 2 minutes.
The amount of exposition dumps were ridiculous throughout this episode, period. But this is like convoluted mess that like even Moffat, if Moffat did it, at least if it didn't make sense, it circled back on itself and like at least it closed the loop. You could tell a story with it. This is just gobbledygook, you know?
Absolutely
just like,
gobbledygook.
It's a bunch of pretentious word salad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and this is when I was texting Rachel earlier, and we were talking about whether this was so theatrical because it, you know, when you're at the theatre and you maybe have 2 acts and you get the build up in the first act, you come back when you've had whatever to drink and everything, and then the second act you'll get the payoff when suddenly in one key scene, in lots of wordy dialogue, you'll get I'm actually your lost and long lost father. You didn't realize.
You hit the nail on the head, Brendan. This was written by a playwright who probably should have been given more help by RTD or somebody, because it's like they just said go for it, and he's written something that probably might have worked really well on the stage, but for television it just lost me.
I mean, Stephen Ryan here, this is what I was trying to, I was giving it every shot just because I really want to understand, and I'm scared of missing something. Not just because I'm an ex-English teacher, but I was also thinking because I'm doing a stream, I don't want to miss something because culturally, whoa. So Stephen Ryan, it's about storytelling, and it's an episode story with stories being told, set up legends and heroes. All I got was that stories are powerful. Of course they are. I always used to say to the kids at school when there was, you know, a sadness in the family or something like that, that talking about the family member who's gone, telling their stories brings them back for a moment. And that's all you can do is keep telling their story. And what I would say, lads, is, and I'm talking to, and I suppose the older ones here, because Sonny, you may have not have watched this, but in the 70s, we had Roots, and Roots, the bestseller, was brilliant because it was a story of Kunta Kinte taken from West Africa, and it was the slave trade in a drama for many weeks. And I was only a little kid watching it, and I was amazed at it and engaged, and it was very powerful stuff. And the thing I got from it as a little kid was the power of the story of Kunta Kinte once he died. And his grandkids would tell his story, and it was all about the oral tradition. And that really, really talked to me. That's what I thought this episode was trying to be about.
I think trying is the right word. It's when you were talking about it, it kind of hit me. This was a story that was about powerful storytelling, but the story itself wasn't very powerful. So it was just a conundrum.
That's profound.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go now.
Out on a high note.
It is, Doug, because what you're saying is, yes, it's a shame that the story about the power of stories is so lame. It's such a shame.
Yes, and it rhymed. Well done.
Well, thank you very much. So, Julian Goodwin, how did he put them in books? Nigeria, like most of Africa, does not have a tradition of written history. Their stories were all passed on via the spoken word, not written down. Well, I don't know. Well, that was one issue, but what about this one? And I know this is what troubled everybody, so I did my due diligence. How did you collect the stories? Well, I started small. A pub lit by candles, a Catholic church confession box, a coal-powered theatre, an electric cinema, a space opera, until I had the idea to power the vehicle with stories. I worked for centuries, and all I wanted was to be recognized. They told me that I should know my place. I primed the Nexus so well that it worked without me, so they threw me out of my life's work. All I salvaged was my story engine. Now, there's so much there. He said he was human, and yet he said he lived for centuries. there's just I just and then I'm a Catholic, and I remember going to confession. I was on my own with the priest. I wasn't aware there was somebody in the corner
Oh,
making
you're a brave
noise.
lad. Very
Yeah,
brave lad.
I only told the nice lies. I didn't tell
Yeah, same
I only,
here.
yeah, I used to
I
say,
didn't get into the good stuff.
yeah, did you only? I went to confession every Saturday, and I used to say that I hadn't done the dishes for man. And he said 5 Hail Marys, and if I said I hit my brother and we had a fight, he said a few Our Fathers as well. But that, but you were home by lunchtime, so it didn't matter. You see, I never said I murdered anyone. That was dropped.
Good. Good. You just told thousands of people, but that's all.
No,
So-
I kept picturing Brendan how he collected the stories, and it occurred to me another tool, another lost opportunity. Perhaps he could have collected stories. He basically captures people or the characters in the pages of a book. All of a sudden, the person disappears, and the passage of the story, the characters, the illustrations appear, and they realize they've been transformed into the story, and that's it. Once you're there. You're not free anymore. And
That's so much
go
better.
around collecting people. So
DD, what you're
yeah.
hinting at is the episode's missing sci-fi. It's missing a reason anything happens. Like that's what you're hinting at. Like, what is the story
Yeah.
engine? What is how
It's-
do you build it? Like, how did he become who he is? And that's why we like sci, because those things are explained in their own way, in their own universe.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is only
Exactly.
my second slide of collection of the transcript. And by the way, this is why I think so many people were confused or said they were bored, because this is RTD not adapting. This may have been a brilliant 4-part story.
Yes.
But you have to show us him collecting the stories, show us the jeopardy over that time, show us him being shafted by the gods, show us all this stuff, because all this page after page is like, oh, this is just too much. I'd rather watch semi-final live of Britain's Got Talent.
No,
I wanna
you
watch
can't
it
even
now
be,
anyway.
You can't be expected to remember half of the things that they say in these episodes now. It's like you said, if you were to do this over the course of several episodes and build it, you would, you'd be going with it week after week after week and soak it in, and it would make a good story. But when someone just stands there and just goes on for 5 minutes like this, it's gonna go in one ear and out the other. It doesn't have any impact at all. Didn't have any on me. I was born
Well,
to
as,
this.
as Cybermat Strike says, did anyone die if they told a bad story and the light went red? We never. Go on, Christine.
No, that's exactly what I was saying. Someone tells a bad story, the light goes red, they die, there's a consequence, there's stakes. We needed to see that happen at least once so we understand the jeopardy people are in, and we didn't.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm getting the feedback for tomorrow's show at 5:45. And obviously I'm getting the scores and all the rest of it, and it's fascinating because was this a Doctor Who episode is one of the key criteria, and we didn't have a death, we didn't have anything going on, and so it's interesting. But it goes on. This is what we learned about the Doctor. He met Dionysus. We drank so much wine we caused a drought. Saga and I watched Marvel movies together until I know, up until Endgame.
That was crazy.
Saga the god didn't like Thor. The muscles were too small. I played chess with bastards. I let her think that she let me win. She kicked ass. This is in Doctor Who. She kicked ass. And Anansi purposely
But
lost
you
the
let her
bet
win.
to make me marry. Yeah, to make me marry one of his daughters. I know the gods. You are not one of them. I mean, this is. I mean, I know he said he had a funny summer with Houdini. I know he sometimes, when it was the Third Doctor, he talked about, oh, I was talking to Napoleon and all that stuff. But this is going up the stakes a bit, this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to insult anybody, but they really need to dumb this down. They are trying just too hard to be intellectual.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't need this. It doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Thank
Dumb
you
it
so
down.
much, Brian, because the essence of good storytelling is communication. I felt really lost with this. They were trying too hard to be clever, and it didn't come across as clever at all.
No, you end up getting lost, and then the story's gone. If you can't follow
Yeah.
the story,
I just didn't care
even
anymore.
if you miss 10 minutes, and it's important in their eyes, but if you miss that 10 minutes, you don't know what's going on. I had no idea. And
So,
with this kind of writing, if they would just get rid of it and put it, like we're always saying, go back to basics. And I don't say you have to have like a base under siege or anything like that, but we're talking just dialogue that you can follow and has a good, it's structured. You got it, start to end. You can follow everything. It doesn't have to be, like I said, when I say dumb it down, I don't mean dumb it down. Literally,
no, I know what you mean. They had to communicate it properly to people that would understand.
You have to punctuate it. So, for example, Genesis of the Daleks is very wordy and very political over the 6 episodes, but you now and again had it punctuated with climbing a Thal rocket and falling, or an extermination, or you saw a Dalek gun, or a Muto. You needed the jeopardy to punctuate it, but if page after page of this in a one episode was just how I collected, how I served the gods, what the doctor did, and the final one, lads, in part of my exam is, did the resolution make any blooming sense?
No.
And here's the resolution. This is what he said. I'm born, I die, I'm born. No, the engine is connected to me. My stories, my voice. My body is like a barber's shop. All of them inside telling their stories. I will not fail them. And then another character says, you told a never-ending story and gave me never-ending power. And then the nurse says, he's taken out 1/3 of the engine. You can't process that power. Your engine could overload and explode. As a lot of people have said online, how did the nurse, Belinda, know that the doctor had taken 1/3 of the engine out? I thought he just said,
Belinda is clever. We've established that. She's cleverer than doctors. She's cleverer than everybody.
Absolutely. She's not just a medical practitioner. She's an engineer, and she's a metaphysical engineer as well. I mean, you're talking to someone who's far above the genius level of any mortal human being.
She is amazing. She's an amazing woman.
But does that resolution make any sense?
No, none whatsoever.
Not at all. It's another word salad that means nothing.
Yeah.
Well, word salad. Maybe they think the audience is still hungry for leafy vegetables.
No, hold on. It makes some sense.
Oh, here we go, Sonny. Tell us why.
I got a sweet. It makes some sense because in Lux, how do we defeat Mr. Ring-a-Ding? We overloaded him with energy, right? And whatever, the power overloaded. The Doctor always does that. That's a classic Doctor trope. Use the enemy's power against them, overload them on their own energy, right? And Belinda saw that firsthand in Lux. So I understand, even if the 1/3 of the engine thing, that could be a bluff, right? So I understand that part. I even like my body is like a barber shop. Everybody's inside of him talking, and like he pulls because he pulls from his past stories to learn lessons, right? That's what's supposed to happen. We know it's Gatwa, he doesn't do that, but everything else is nonsense. Everything else is actual nonsense.
There's only one place where that would make any sense, and that would be from a prophet standing up on one of those mounds in The Life of Brian. Spouting out nonsense. That would work. And then they would walk right past him and go to somebody like Brian.
Now I can defend 2 lines.
Oh, it's Rachel and her farts again. I can't.
Rachel has gone very, very highbrow. The resolution was a wet fart. There was one positive from this. The Doctor solved it for once. That's true.
Love it.
That's true.
Well, it may have been wet fart, but I hope it didn't need skid marks.
Now, everybody, the thread have brought this up. Maybe the dialogue in yellow from Belinda is deliberately telling us a crumb of evidence for the payoff. She doesn't explain why she says 1/3 of the engine, but maybe she knows more than we realize, because as some of the thread have said, my final one is this. If anything happens to Belinda, I swear to Gallifrey, remember, she has been talking about Gallifrey from the beginning. There's an issue why she cannot land on the 24th of May. Can she not land on the 24th of May because the other Doctor has to die first?
We can only hope.
And the TARDIS can't cross its own timeline. So there's a kind of issue going on there, because the God is going to sort out the end of the Ncuti Doctor's story. And the talk is, might either be another Time Lord, or she might actually be the 16th Doctor.
Oh, God.
And she does seem to know a little bit more about that than was given away.
Well, actually, that's an interesting point. I don't know if it was just me, but that whole scene of her in the TARDIS, she seemed very comfortable talking to the TARDIS, didn't she? Like,
yeah, controlling stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she was even like, talking to it in a sense, like, give me some help here, give me some help here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yeah.
But equally, the scene that Doug mentioned ages ago, when she was the story about her being a nurse.
Yeah.
Now, we could have said, she was a bit of a smart-ass nurse, or she actually knows more than we think. You know what I mean? Is she a scientist?
They could be setting that up, Brendan. The problem is RTD and the way they compose the shows right now. They are so obsessed with the Supergirl trope that this could just be the overbrilliance that they are bestowing upon her. It does make sense to see them take her down that thread if they choose to pay it off that way. But it's also just as likely that she's a Mary Sue. And so take that as you will.
Stephen Braddock, the rumor is she's a chameleon version of Susan. I've heard that's that telepathic link. Paul Richards just is going on Omega. Oh, God. I mean, this is what I mean. There's going to be some payoff to this. Maybe these are all threads that we've been fed all along.
I had a horrible thought. What if she pulls out a bloody fob watch and she's like, I am the master, or I am the doctor, or I am Susan, and did the whole fob watch?
Well, isn't the fob watch has been dropped into the TARDIS, so that it's still there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So anyway, we've all had the items, but we've just delayed it for a while because we have been debating like good ones tonight. But Broke Hack Bingo, the sci-fi scorecard, here we go. Yes, our good old Broke Hack Bingo. So let's get the item. There we go. That's our scorecard that we normally have when it's blank. I filled in mine like a good person. And,
I didn't do it this week because I didn't care.
I did. You know me, I do a lot of work for this. I hope everybody is giving us a like now and giving us a subscription, because I've put
I like you, Brendan. I like you.
Lot of work into this just to give the lads a nice easy time here. But as you can see, if I go bigger here just for a moment, I sometimes do miss one out accidentally, because how many times do you want me to watch these episodes? But red is what I think was in the episode. Obviously we had a lot of classic Who references this time, and Easter eggs, didn't we? My God, was that Easter egg riven. But
terrible stuff.
The bad man trope. I mean, are we going to have any bad women ever?
No,
no. We had a lot of girl power, though, didn't we? A lot of girl power in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I ask what was the song and dance?
What's that? Sorry.
What was the song and dance?
The song and dance. I'm stretching slightly, Sonny, because there was an awful lot. I'm trying to think where it was actually.
You made it up. You watched
Yeah,
it
no, I
before.
didn't. I'll have to remember because obviously I've watched and watched and watched, and I've actually made so many notes
Yeah, no,
today.
that's okay.
And I did have a reason. He doesn't do a technical dance, but he does do some funny moves. Please, somebody remind me in the thread because he
Oh,
does.
You're on
Rachel
your own.
will
Yeah.
know
You're
it.
on your own.
They were
Yeah.
screwing up with their own canon. They couldn't be consistent with.
No.
Yeah, I was toying with the canon change one. Costume change.
I
Why did
did.
he leave the TARDIS in a? Go on.
No, I did a canon change and a gender fluidity one. But if you want to do the costume one, we can do that one now too.
Go on. Go on. You do both, and then I won't interrupt you. So costume change, then canon change.
I don't know the costume change. We're in India. Like he always starts with the costume of the last episode now, so he can do a costume change basically. So it's like baked into the show. The canon change was from my what the F moment, like changing the I think that's why I marked it, changing the black, and then the gender fluidity. The main villain was he was a goddess, and then how he was a different type of god. So like he talked about how in the past he was a female and a male.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
I will go back over and amend that as I go. And this is the writer. I just want to see more stories like Dot and Bubble. That's why I told you to watch it, Sonny, that are deeply nuanced and personable and rich, but don't get in the way of the Doctor's primary objectives, which is to save the day regardless of who's in front of him.
Subtly nuanced would be a start.
Maybe
That's how sci-fi is
more
supposed
gay,
to be
so-
done.
Now, what I wanted to show you, and this is not spoiler for next week when Graham Norton is in the episode, but
I can't wait.
But isn't the essence, if I had to explain what that story was tonight, it's partly Graham Norton's big red chair, which is you go in the barber's chair and you better tell a good story or he evicts you. Well,
Yeah.
same thing. It's Graham Norton's red chair. It's also Prison Break because he tattooed on his body the escape plans of getting out of the prison, didn't he, Wentworth Miller?
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
Subtle.
so
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that was so
it's
lame.
and then instead we had a braided hair. I mean, how the hell? Right, okay, I need to go here now.
Yeah.
And she
that
did
got
it
me.
so
How the hell
fast.
by
That's
feeling
an
his
all
hair.
day
Yeah.
event. That's an entire day
Yeah.
event.
Exactly. Come on, guys.
Yeah, and then
Well, actually,
they wanted you to think day like they had all day to braid each other's hair. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, I was actually, I can't remember who posted it. Someone had been doing research on it and said there was a case of something like this happening in Colombia a long time ago.
Apparently it was a real thing. Yeah, I read that
But
too.
it's not something that necessarily happened during the West African slave trade.
No.
So
I don't
No.
believe
that's-
that.
we're selectively picking up, we're co-opting some other culture's practice and
Yes.
incorporating it into our story because it will somehow work.
Yes, that's exactly what they did.
So Tomboy Chick has also
Make it
said
more
the gender
interesting,
fluidity could be
because
because
the
I saw we saw.
Culture wasn't interesting. That's all.
Sorry, I know we seem to be lagging a bit here. Fugitive Doctor and the male Doctor, but the other mix is it's Prison Break mixed with Graham Norton's red chair, mixed with Rins of Akaten, because it was a similar vibe where that girl had to sing to the god to keep him going. And
Yeah.
it's like, we've done it all before. It's not
Yeah.
clever. And actually, that wasn't a good... Well, I personally didn't even like that story either because, I don't know, it didn't work for me. But I just think, God, yeah. And the Simpsons have been there. Look, there you go. The Simpsons have got the plot.
Well done. Oh, well done.
Oh, yeah.
And they did it better.
That is
much
so
better.
good.
Simpsons did it first.
Do you know,
Oh,
I
mate,
do...
You do your research, don't you?
I do my research. So So there you go. They got there first. So this is not an original story. Now,
Not at all.
I said to you ages ago about, you said it had boring or flat parts to it, and I said I'd show you the 5-minute breakdown. So this might give us a chance to talk about the story. Yeah. So here we
Okay.
go. I'll show you it here. There you go. This is the 5-minute breakdown. So in the first bit, you get the prequel. I'm thinking when you're up against good opposition, to have a prequel, which is like a folk tale about some fire and it's done in pictures. I really don't think that's the way to grab an audience. Then the next 5 minutes, you've got the importance of a barber shop to a black doctor. I think they've got to remember who this is to the British audience in 2025, when on the other side is a program called Britain's Got Talent. Then the next 5 minutes is black lad gets haircut and tells a story. I mean, do you think people will have switched over yet? Then the next one, Doctor gets his haircut. You could say there was a bit of jeopardy there because he was obviously stuck. But then he told told a nice story about Belinda as a nurse. Then the doctor feels right. We're 25 minutes into the episode. Doctor feels betrayed by Omo and opens the door to the vortex. That was the best bit, I have to say. If you're talking about action,
That's about where I fell asleep.
Well, it was the best bit. I did think so. Then you've got the barber says he has many gods as he cuts his own hair. I'm not sure. This is when it gets wordy.
Yeah,
Then,
what's with the cutting his own hair thing? That lost me too.
well, a lot of people have said about the hair growth. He cuts your hair. Okay, he's cutting your hair. It's the stories that tell you that power up the engine. So what's with the hair growing back bit?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Doesn't make sense.
It only
No.
activates while he's cutting hair, is the implication. Like, that's a key element of like feeding the story into. I guess that's how he pulls the story out of you, maybe, because that's his only connection to you, right?
Jesus, Sonny, you should be writing this show. You make a lot more sense.
I would do a better job half asleep.
Are they
think you
burning the
would.
hair for fuel?
Maybe.
That's where my mind went to. I was like, are they burning the hair to power this thing?
So what
'Cause
I'm going to
must smell real awful in there.
Oh,
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Christian first, right? Christian, that this is the truth. Now I haven't got the minute by minute from Jamie, but Jamie was bored with the well.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie hated the breakdown of the looks at the end, the meta. Now, with this one, Jamie just said that was really boring. And he looked at me funny when I said, I don't know if that was a really good episode. And it was because I'd been trying to focus on all these bits that were going on. So I was engaged because I'm streaming about it later, So I was objective about it later. But I've heard a lot of people saying, Christian first. You can see my 5-minute breakdown. Truthfully, when did you think it was either piquing your interest, I've got to be fair, or it was switching you off?
It was switching me off during the Dr. Haircut story of Belinda as a nurse. The moment they started to focus on something that was related to a backstory for the companion and nothing related to what's going on in the barbershop at that moment, it lagged. If I was going to drop off to sleep, that's when I would have fallen asleep. Ironically, to miss the best potential scene, which is opening the door to the vortex, which would have followed it. But, I could have been wiped out and fallen asleep and had to go back and watch it a couple more times if that had happened.
Now, Stephen Braddock has hit the nail on the head here. This is Doctor Who after all. So let's just have a look. When he said, I could tell you about Ice Warriors, Daleks and Weeping Angels, but I won't. I thought, that's what we want, not an NHS story. And that's the whole point. This is sci-fi.
Yeah.
Why do we want to hear about Belinda doing a long shift?
Yeah, that was the soap opera aspect, wasn't it? It was really hard to digest for me.
Yeah, it's called a wrong turning. So, Sonny, you've already told us you fell asleep at a certain point. When you can see the breakdown in front of you, where did you just go, ugh?
I was disengaged from the beginning. This was a really hard episode for me to start. I picked up when I woke up when the fugitive doctor started to speak because I started doing my little head canon and I was like, whoa, they're doing this with Africa. And then I was really engaged. It felt like Doctor Who when they were running through the corridors. Not when he was holding his head. That he looked stupid. But it was actually Doctor Who, and then I marked it for a reveal when we saw the brain. I thought that was a cool scene, and all of that was cool. Like I was engaged by 31 minutes basically, but that's way too long to get engaged for a story and a 50-minute, an hour story.
Yeah, I'm going to be. I bet you they won't reveal the 5-minute breakdowns this week on the ratings because I've got it all lined up because I'm fascinated when people, to me, Brian, prequel telling a story on screen, not a good idea. Chibnall did that a few times. In fact, Jamie was reminding me tonight, was it the Timeless Children when you got the 2 planets and it was a drawing and you got all this going on and it was like, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be television. This is not. And so I the prequel to me and then a barber's shop. Look, I've got to be aware of my audience here. It's Britain in 2025. Most of the audience, I think, are going to have a problem with the barber's shop and a black doctor waffling on about the importance of being black. I just think 10 minutes in, I mean, honestly, I know you said you weren't exactly excited by this one, Brian, but where did you start to think, oops?
It's hard to pick one moment, but I think I'm just one step away from Christian there. I actually got drawn back in from all of the boredom when they went back to Belinda as a nurse. Because at least it was something that I could follow. It was something that made sense. And then as soon as they went back to the barbershop again, I was like, I don't know what's going on anymore. And I wish I had fallen asleep like Sonny did, but I had to go. I had to go through the whole thing, unfortunately. And when it was over with that last, what was that last line about the story? I was just like, please stop. We've only got 4 more of these to go. You know, I don't care who Belinda turns into or who gets revealed as what. We've got 4 more of these to go, and it's over.
I really thought there was I thought there was a point.
Don't apologize.
I thought this was. I saw a lot of people tweeting about this, and the truth is, if we're all being fair about this, I felt as though I was being pulled right into a different cultural experience. And yes, I was willing, I was there, but there were so many levels trying to understand this cultural experience. Because when I go to a hairdresser's, I want it out the way. I don't like to talk. I want it done fast. I don't want people asking me, am I going on holiday? What am I going to do? Shut up and do my hair and get out.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Actually, Brendan, I have to add this one component. We're talking about me not being happy with the story of Belinda as a nurse. We don't need an NHS story. What if the story that was told was a portion of Trial of a Time Lord, where he mentions being put on trial and we get to see the Valyard? All right, so we're hearkening back to Classic Who, Colin Baker. And part of the imagery, because of the way they were illustrating things on the screen, I was picturing his coat, which would have been perfect with the color palette to play with visually. It would have been visually stimulating, and it would have been hearkening back to a classic era story. It couldn't have done any worse than listening to a story about Belinda bettering her doctor.
And getting your haircut.
And Doug, just to finish off the quartet there, when did you?
It's funny. It started off okay for me because I was quite impressed with the production values. But for me, I quite like bottle episodes because a bottle episode lives or dies by the strength of the performances and the story. I mean, for example, Midnight is famously a bottle episode. I found in this episode, apart from a lot of it losing me, it seemed to be almost the whole episode was about exposition, and I found myself just looking at the set. I wasn't engaged. I thought, and I don't know why, because I think a lot of the actors were quite good. But a bottle episode is a good bottle episode. This is going to sound weird. For me, a bottle episode is a good bottle episode when you forget that it's a bottle episode and you forget that it's designed purely to save money and it's one set. This just felt like a deliberate bottle episode. It was like watching a bad stage play. So I guess to answer your question, I was disengaged when they started waffling on in the barbershop. When the doctor went to the barbershop and the whole thing started, for me it seemed to go on forever, and I was actually quite happy to have them running around the corridor for a little bit, as silly as it was with the braid thing. At least it was a bit of a release from the barbershop.
So Peter here, it's going to be about 10 in the morning British time. That's when we find out about the ratings. I'll be doing a rating show at midday live. Me and John will be doing it live. But you see, this bit here in the TARDIS, fine. It's Doctor Who. As I learned with Vengeance on Varos and some of those stories, don't spend too long in the TARDIS, but, get on with the story. That one with Colin Baker and Perry in the TARDIS for quite a long time in Vengeance on Varos, that dragged on, but, and we got on with the story, but we've already said no jeopardy. The writer even got a blooming line in it. The missing bit didn't seem to have jeopardy in the end. You just saw some lines saying danger, don't go here or something.
Yeah.
I think, to me, if I was truly saying as a Doctor Who fan, I was intrigued by the red set, the emergency thing in the TARDIS. That's what got me.
Yeah, 100%. Same.
Well, it felt illogical to me, Brendan. What they needed to do was have her with Gatwa the entire time, because having her follow him felt superfluous. It slowed down the story. They could have done more action if she had followed him. Those are some minutes they could have used elsewhere in the story.
That's a really good point. Someone else pointed that out in something else I watched, and they wondered whether maybe there was a reason for it production-wise, because it kind of didn't make a lot of sense, did it?
Well, it's like we do consistency and we do callbacks to old Doctor Who when he said he wasn't going to. And then we don't have cloister bells suddenly, which made me think he doesn't do things accidentally. They haven't forgotten the cloister bells suddenly. So when you saw that very red TARDIS, I just wonder if something else is going on. I really do. For example, in Lucky Day, everybody seems to think, if you just watch it quickly, that all the flickering lights in the taxi, the flickering lights in that village was all to do with those blokes doing a stunt. However, isn't there something bigger going on? And I wonder whether this TARDIS going red at certain points and doing various things, yes, it was partly to do with what happened in the barbershop, but I just wonder if there's another layer. I just wondered, because the cloister bells did not go off, did they?
No, but Brendan, you make a good point, but the only thing I could do to challenge that would be Ruby Sunday and the snowfall. And yet there was no payoff. So here we have something that is happening and was strung basically through the 8 episodes. But in the end, there was no effective payoff for it. So maybe there's a connection, but I'm not confident yet that there is. However, you were absolutely right about Empire of Death. So your powers of prognostication precede you.
I mean,
nice one.
Very good. Very
I mean,
good.
as we said,
somebody's a teacher apart from Brendan.
We're talking over. Right. As I was saying, the cast, I mean, I can't knock the cast. I think it was interesting because on Unleashed, they talked about that. I think they filmed for about 3 weeks and they all, bonded, so to speak, and all the rest of it. But I think a lot of because you have a lot more runners and all the rest of it going on normally and more sets, maybe you don't get that much of a bond. Whereas with this one, it was a tight cast, wasn't it? That was it. It was very tight. So they were able to develop and get on. And 2 of them had been in the Barber Chronicles written by Anaya Ellams as well.
That's right.
Yeah, I thought the set design was outstanding. It was very authentic. In fact, it was interesting on Unleashed. They had a Nigerian advisor who lives in Barry Island in Wales. Yeah, and I found it really interesting. I mean, you know me, I'm picky, so I straight away I was thinking, right. So when they do, oh no, they don't do anything in the northeast of England, do they? Because they don't want to represent them. But when they do, I'll advise. But they won't do that.
Weird.
But they wouldn't do that, would they? They wouldn't say, "Oh, we need a village advisor from England," because they'll think, "No, we will show our version of England." But when they do this, they want to get it right. I find it fascinating. But I thought it was lovely. Sets, the marketplace, the lot.
That was very well done.
Yeah,
but I know
it doesn't fit
Go on.
for some reason. It doesn't seem like this is Doctor Who.
No.
It could have been if it was another television show, it could have been something that I would be intrigued by, if it was a drama even, but a good drama. But as far as Doctor Who goes, take the title sequence out and take out the TARDIS, and you're not left with anything that's Doctor Who at all.
Brian,
Exactly.
what did you think of? I think I've got the shot somewhere, but that's not to trouble me. We all saw it. What did you think of when the opening sequence was part of the barbershop wall?
It was visually a nice effect. That's all I thought. Just a nice little visual effect.
However, Brian, you know now where I'm going with, is the Doctor's adventures actually only a story?
That's what I thought. That's what I took from it.
Is this like RTD's get out of jail free card?
I think it might be.
That if this all goes south, it was just a story.
It never really happened. Yeah, I think it
and
might
he
be.
can he's retconning himself in advance just in case.
Well, didn't they say that next week is going to change everything? So God knows what they're going to have for us.
Well, it's going to be the Rani or Mrs. Flood's going to be something. Now, Sonny, I'm going to say the thing that needs to be said because I think it was deliberate. So therefore, we're going to comment on it. I've shown you shots and I could keep going. The director was a black director, which is fine. Black writer, black cast. It's obviously a deliberate policy to do this once to show that they can do it. They'll try and win an award or something. But but the truth is, in the end, you try and do something. We'll call it experimental. We'll try it pioneering. But Sonny, do you think in the end it was worth it? Because my concern when we had Jodie Whittaker, the first female doctor, is what a shame it didn't land, and therefore, can you dare do another female actress for a doctor for a while? I'm worried about the Black Doctor because they've made him gay as well, and they've made him quite diva-ish, and unfortunately, I think that's problematic. Now, with this experimental episode where they've tried to do an extremely diverse cast front and center and behind the camera, do you think it's been worth it, Sonny?
That's an interesting question. Has it been worth it is the question. Yes, I guess, because this is probably one of the better executed episodes that I've seen, and I think it will stir up attention and views, which is what the show desperately needs. And Gatwa was already a bad character from the start because of the aforementioned thing mentioned already. So that's an interesting. It is kind of worth it.
Yeah, as I come to Christian with the same question, so I won't repeat it. Yeah, Squinty Mint here says last week my main.
No, they didn't land it.
Sorry. Squinty Mint said last week my main criticism was it felt like 100 other episodes. This did feel different, and the dialogue was more interesting. And the truth is, when me and Rachel were texting each other earlier, the theatrical element, that's why I was heavily engaged when Jamie was bored rigid. It was because I thought there's another layer here, surely, that I'm just missing. There's another layer. Because I knew it was theatrical. I needed to kind of go digging. I did think the dialogue was in some parts richer and more of a flourish than RTD's writing.
Yeah.
I could feel a poetry somewhere in there. I mean, what about you, Christy? Did you find that this was a worthy experiment?
I would say it would be considered a worthy experiment if the series was already successful, because you can kind of gamble when a series is hitting on all thrusters. You're going to try something just a little bit out of the ordinary. And visually, it does kind of stand apart from the other episodes this season. So there is that. The problem is, in retrospect, will it actually pay off? Gosh, we tried it this way. In the future, are they willing to take that kind of a chance as readily again if this one doesn't land well? And I'm getting the impression that this one has not landed well. So despite all the visuals and the potential, it's another missed opportunity based on how the story needed to be constructed. So,
and I'm fascinated. I'm just fascinated by all this, and it is more of a fascination. This is a very diverse episode, and even the spider, which was a Nancy, it's got the African masks. It's got all the iconography in its legs. The whole thing is. I thought it used to be called cultural appropriation, but I'm trying to get with it, but I can't keep up. I can't work it out. And there's that amazing. You see that shot there? I think is classic Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Classic Doctor Who. A barber's shop on the back of a giant spider in space. Now that is classic.
It's a lovely image.
But this is where I take the idea of a different series or a different story. What if there was an 8-episode series called The Storyteller, where someone is pursuing an individual who is going to different cultures, different settings, and you're having an adventure in each place, and the hero is trying to capture this person who's actually capturing these stories and these elements on the page before some nefarious plot unfolds. And I'm thinking, gosh, you could actually touch all the continents, all these cultures, all these myths, and make a very compelling series out of it that's not Doctor Who at all. So it's an interesting idea, an interesting concept, but this is in the wrong series to be executed effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Adrian Sherlock, I suppose, is addressing what I've said. I said it was a very diverse one, and of course the truth is it isn't, but
very nice.
From the standpoint of mainstream British broadcasting, it would be seen as extremely diverse. But I take your point on the money there, Adrian Sherlock, because if it was diverse, it would, the marketplace would look different, for example, because they did a point that showed you in Unleashed. I had, was it 180 or was it 80 supporting artists? And they all seem to be more diverse than you'd normally see, is how I'll put it. So see, diversity means intentionally destroying our own culture while we bend over backwards to appease. This is the worry that actually it does get people angry. I don't want Doctor Who getting people angry. I don't want it getting people shouting at the TV. I don't want it.
That, mate.
Well, I know, but this is the point. I've said this for weeks, haven't I, lads? That RTD is so on the nose that people, you're not winning friends. You're not winning people and recruiting them to your argument. You're turning people away. That's bad. It's bad tactics. He'd be the worst recruitment agent. We've just had VE Day celebrations for 80 years. He'd be the worst recruiting agent for an army, RTD. Really terrible, because he would be so insulting and in your face with his dialogue. But in essence, lads, if you weren't on this stream, would you ever think you're going to watch that episode again?
No.
I wouldn't have watched it in the first place. I did this for Brendan. I was like, okay.
You're
I
a
watched
good
it
man,
3
Brian.
times. That's all Sonny's fault.
Sonny, you sick puppy. You sick
Maybe
puppy.
because I did have fun on the second half of this episode, especially because I streamed it and I paused and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" So like I was having fun on the second half of the episode,
Yeah.
but when I rewatch it, if I heard one more good thing out of this panel tonight, I might have rewatched it. That's how close I was.
I've got something good for you after we hear from Doug.
Well, we always end, as you know, on Night Terrors, which is, having seen the episode, is there anything that is really concerning you about the state of play of the Doctor Who program? You know, something that you saw tonight that has really got you more worried than thinking what you've just said. So let's just talk about Night Terrors for a moment. Yes, our Night Terrors. Now, I always forget every week being an English teacher, but you know me, double, sci-fi, rubble, all concern and canon trouble. Yes, it's our Night Terrors. So, Christian, we've said what we've said about today's episode, but what is, if there is anything, what is bothering you about this series?
The complete abandonment of science fiction foundations. This story, maybe more than the others, really takes off in the flight of fantasy and untethers the show from what used to make it successful. And if this is an indication of where they want going forward, there's no future for it. That would scare me.
Okay, Sonny?
I almost said nothing, honestly, because like the series is kind of grinding me down. I think the lack of sci-fi does scare me though. The lack of sci-fi scares me too much because they refuse to explain anything, and it's like I guess it's not a sci-fi show anymore.
Yeah,
It's my Night Terror.
Yeah, I think my shock as I come to Brian is, as I said earlier, my dad, also called Brian, my dad absolutely seems so angry tonight, and my dad doesn't get angry, and my dad does not get angry about Doctor Who. In fact, he used to enjoy baiting me over Jodie. So I think there is a concern that there's another a segment of the British public peeling away from the program. And honestly, Brian, my dad is furious.
That's
And
funny.
Go on.
I'm on the complete other end of the spectrum. I'm apathetic. I've just lost all hope. I don't watch it. The only time I ever see it is interviews on synopsis or a review online, or when I watch your show. Those are the only times I'm ever exposed to it. And when I see that, all I could think is, I'm so glad I didn't watch it. You know, it's when you take one of our favorite shows that are very, dear to your heart, and it's been reduced to something like this. It's really sad. And I just don't, I want to remember Doctor Who for what it was. Now, if I may, I don't know if you've heard the latest, but somebody in the thread, please correct me. But years and years ago, I used to watch the real Ghostbusters, and the writer was it J. Michael Straczynski or Michael James?
J. Michael Straczynski.
Yeah. Okay. Babylon 5. Have you heard what's happening?
Yep, he's in Britain.
I know he's in Britain.
He's moving there, and he's looking for work. So don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but they said they are looking for potential showrunners if they get rid of RTD.
It's not if. He's gone.
He's gone. He's gone.
I've got
it's a ray of hope.
Yeah, I've got I've got the interview, which I will do a little mini stream on this week with him. The context is also a bit wider as well. I mean, we all can market ourselves. His interview talks about TV, moving to Britain, da-di-da-di-da. But the other context is Trump, and he's left America for a reason. So there's that as well. You know, we're getting a lot in Britain at the moment. Those Americans from California are mourning. So
let's not get our hopes up then, eh?
So, well, but it could be serendipity. It could be just one of those moments that works.
True.
But yeah, there's that. And oh gosh, we've got. Oh, hold on, my earpiece is telling me something. Oh, they're all happy because they've been slaving all night and they've only got their second one. Oh, bless. So thank you very much to X-Man. Thank you. Doctor Who with magic and gods is not Doctor Who. Inaya Williams, God, I mean, I've got so much stuff and I can't use it tonight. I'll use it later. But he said in his interview that he wanted to blend the supernatural with science in this story. And I thought, Doctor Who's done that before. Fair dues, it has. But
he didn't do that.
No, I don't think he did do that. I think we were told stuff. I think it was, to me, it was the worst version of storytelling, which is just talk at the person. The kids in the corner on the playmat would have got bored and started hitting each other, picking their nose. It just wouldn't.
That's what I was doing, picking my nose through the whole thing.
It just wouldn't work. But yeah, I agree, X-Man. Doctor Who with magic and gods is not Doctor Who. I always think of the third Doctor in the Demons when he made a point. There's no magic. It's just there's always an explanation behind it, and he tricked Joe Grant with Bessie, didn't he?
Yeah.
He tricked Bach.
Yes,
just by holding up that story is a classic for many reasons, and one of them is that it's so unique that it blends the two of science fiction and quote magic together. And that's a rarity in Doctor Who, at least back in the day. You know, we had Sutek, you know, who was supposed to be a god, but he was a misunderstood figure. He actually, you know, when they do it right, and then with these classic episodes, it's fantastic, and they just can't seem to do it now. They can't.
Now, as Rachel,
it's very sad.
I mean, as Rachel's saying, to join to Brian's earlier point, we've all heard that RTD's gone. It's
he's gone.
I'll only believe it when I see it. The reason is rumors are rumors are rumors.
He's gone.
But you know, I mean, we know we have people who talk to us, but the point is, I will believe things when I see it. That's all I'm saying.
So it's a little bit like Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm. People keep making noises,
and she's still there.
Yeah.
No, I tend to go with what was it there? With Roger Waters' Pink Floyd, I've got amazing powers of observation. RTD is gone. He's gone.
John Newden, my amazing observation is that he will be joining me in only a few hours' time to do the ratings live. And John Newden, you better get to bed. No, he wanted it a few years ago, but they went back to RTD. He would take it. He did say that years ago, didn't he, John? He actually said he would offer to help, but they went with RTD. Now, that means his price goes up now, doesn't it? Because the BBC didn't come for him, so his price goes up. But they need him, but he's got more things he has to rectify now. But you know, there you go. Now I've just had a special request. Sorry, folks. Peter just says, please let me see the puppets again. So thank you. Well, I mean, they're alive to me. They're real to me.
It's very well done.
It's lovely to do. I mean, they work very hard, the Who pets, and it's past their bedtime. But there you go. So hopefully that pleased you, Peter. Hopefully more of them tomorrow. So just a reminder to everybody that yes, 2 shows tomorrow. Normally, me and John do a ratings special at lunchtime. We don't know what the ratings are going to be. We'll be told at about 10 in the morning. I get my ideas together. I never do a show. Hopefully, you see that, a show where I've got no prep and I have something interesting to debate. So basically, we'll do that at midday. And of course, then somehow I get myself together, and at 5:45 we do the full analysis. And my friends on there tomorrow night, it's Hugh, John, Brian. Not Brian. Sorry, I've said Brian. Brian, yeah. With Paul, and we've got Rachel. Sorry, gosh, yes, Rachel, of course, as well.
Call me David.
Call you David, yeah. So, lads, thank you very much for giving me your first impressions. Oh, gosh, Jess, you've been very, very decent there. The doctor says you can't have bread. You all got to eat cake instead. Thank you very much. Thank you. People have been very kind. In fact, X-Man, again, Doctor always explains magic with science fact. It is true, isn't it, lads? I've thought about the demons, but I'm trying to think of another episode where he actually tries to prove that. Like he sometimes did. What was it? Was it Inferno? I'm trying to think of the one where he did that timey-wimey thing with the TARDIS he was messing on with, and he explained to Liz Shaw, who obviously was a scientist, that it's just different time zones. It's not a. I'm just trying to think for you of another example.
I'm thinking about Colin Baker.
Yeah. So, everybody, thank you very much for your time. Christian, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure. Sonny, I hope to see you. Is it on Tuesday at 8:00 with the Children of Time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the child.
That really kicks off. I tell you what, I can't. And by this week, there will be photographs with them as in their creche, in their playpen. Oh yeah, I'm going to make sure I'm super nanny. Don't you worry. And maybe with dummies in their mouth as well. Yes. Brian, great to see you back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun. I've been dying to meet Christian and especially Doug. No offense, Christian.
Doug's wrong.
I've just been chatting it up with Doug, and he's a great guy. He's just an absolute, and as are you. As are you all.
Guy, thank you.
As are all of
guy.
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, all of you. Stand out. Whatever that expression is. I'm happy. I've got a pizza waiting in the other room.
Yeah,
Oh, you lucky bugger.
Yes, image of the Fendal.
Yeah. So, Doug, to
Wonderful.
finish off, thank you to you, and of course, a shout out for your channel, maybe.
I don't need it. It's doing really well. Always say, Uncle, I've just reached 1,800 subscribers, and I'm very happy.
Very nice.
And of course, Brian, it says in his brackets, the Zero Room. He also has a channel, and he's done some trailers at the moment. He'll be getting
Great
stuff ready.
trailer. Check it out, guys. It's a really good
Oh,
trailer.
Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, I ran into a technical snag, so they'll
Fix
be
it, boy.
popping up.
Fix it.
I am fixing it, but they're going to be sporadic little clips until I get it fixed.
Cool.
But yes, thank you. Yeah.
There you go. So, everybody, sorry, Sonny, we haven't done yours.
No,
Give your-
that's no.
Sonny has a great channel, by the way.
Sonny
I've just
does.
subscribed. It is
I post some funny
and
things.
there's some good stuff on there which we probably can't talk about. But
No.
go see Sonny.
No, you don't want to talk about it here. But it's enjoyable for Doctor Who fans. I always forget my numbers. I'm gonna add it to my thing later. It's like Sunny Waffles. If you search Sunny Waffles, you'll find me. 3-5.
Yeah,
It's
you'll
three,
find it.
3-5 something.
Yeah. Okay, then, everybody. Well, thanks a lot, because in my case, I need to get to bed so I can get up, so I can prepare for the rating show and then for the show at 5:45. All for you out there. So please subscribe, please give us a like, and give us a text if you want to come on. Thanks, lads, and I'll say good night.
Christian, Sonny, Doug.
Bye. Love you.